Okay, I am calling to order the Finance Committee meeting at 6:03 p.m. I am the chairperson, Liz Muirhead. I recognize Vice Chair Shauna Maxwell and board members Robert Knecht and Robin Seagreaves. We have our first item is the approval of the minutes for the March 10th Finance Committee agenda. Are there any additions, corrections, or modifications to the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as presented, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Seagreaves?
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. Okay, the minutes are so approved and will be placed on file. We have two presentations tonight, starting with the Chester County Intermediate Unit. We have Dr. George Fiore and Joseph Lubitsky here to present this evening, and we know you have to go from here to another district, so we will try to be brief.
Thank you. Thanks once again also for having us. We really love highlighting our partnership with Coatesville, but also the students that we share in programs, which I think is something really special. Today I'm going to talk to you, and so will Mr. Lubitsky, as well as joining us is Dr. Jennifer Murray as our Assistant Executive Director. So we're going to talk a little bit about our budget, our categorical core occupational education and marketplace services budget. So here's the bottom line for our budgets that have been reviewed by our board and approved. Tomorrow we will approve the marketplace budget, but also has been presented to our superintendents and business managers. Actually, since November, we've been walking through this. There's no increase in the core budget contribution, which Mr. Lubitsky will walk you through. That is, for well over a decade, we've kept that at no increase. The occupational education is at a 2% increase. And then lastly, the price is paid for our marketplace for Chester County School District. And these are programs that you opt into. You don't have to participate, and that will be an increase of 1.82%. The Intermediate Unit Board of Directors puts parameters on how we look at pricing, and you'll see here we look at the historical Act 1 index is how we keep our pricing. That is our ceiling, and we are fortunate that we have not approached that this year. Here is much of the summary of the budget approval process is detailed in the school code. So first, the core services budget, which I talked about, which is being 0% increase, would need to be approved by the Coatesville Area School District Board of Directors by April 30th. The occupational educational budget needs to be adopted by the board majority vote by June 30th, 2026. Most cases, boards will work on and review those at the same meeting. And lastly, we have our marketplace budget, which, as I said, will be approved by the CCIU board tomorrow if all goes well. And lastly, the categorical services budget. Those are grants, federal programs, and dollars that are governed by state and federal requirements are approved by the appropriate agencies. You can see how our budget's broken up. Our largest part of the budget, 72%, is our marketplace services. So that means our programs, in order for the IU to thrive, that means they need to be of high quality and of high interest to all that we serve. But before we jump into conversation about the numbers and the different programs, I want to draw your attention to the handout that we provided at your seat. And this is just a snapshot of one of the programs that we have. And this is the Technical College High School program, in which Coatesville is one of the strongest in the county of students participating. There are 250 student applications, and you can see a breakdown there. 4 were for our Allied Health program, 2 for our Teacher Leadership Academy, but most of the students are entering the trades, 244 students, really exciting. And you'll see what are the success rates then when they're in. So you'll see in the center, so that's the career exploration, 250 students applying. We don't have wait lists in our program, which is really important. We're probably the only CTE in the state that does that. The work experience, 226 students earned 439 industry certifications. That is an incredible amount of certifications earned during their time at TCHS. You'll see in the center it talks about hours with nearly almost 57,000 hours. in the CTE program, students earn their certifications by graduation based on the amount of hours. So for example, a student that is in a cosmetology program would need 1,250 hours in order to reach their certification. Right below that is the indicator of how students are doing on the NOCTI exam. That's an equivalent to a PSSA if you're thinking in your school. So 80% of the students scored competent or advanced. That is an incredible, not only participation rate, but achievement. And we're really, really proud of our Coatesville students for doing that. And then lastly, on the right-hand side, you'll see future readiness. Coatesville students earned one of the highest in the county, 105 credits. And those of us who have children in college, you know how valuable that is when they leave our doors. So behind the numbers that we share with you today are students. Students that want to enter careers, students that want to enter the workforce, and students that want to enter college. And I'm proud to say that we're able to do that in partnership with Coatesville. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Labitsky, who's going to dive deeper into those 4 budget areas, talk a little bit about the IU, and we're happy to answer questions at the end. But thank you so much once again for having us, and we really appreciate getting to show off your students.
Thank you, Dr. Fury. The overall IU budget document is close to 400 pages, so we've done our best as succinctly as possible to summarize each of these 4 major budget areas in several slides. We'd like to start off about talking about alternative revenue sources. We do a lot to obtain funds from sources outside of our member school districts, and you can see a sample list here that totals close to $89 million in estimated alternative revenue sources. And I'll come back to this because, as I go through the budget areas, because this is one of the ways we're able to offset the cost of the more common services and programs to our member school districts. Moving into the proposed core budget for next year, you can see on the left-hand side the divisions that are funded by the core budget. It's essentially our central operations. Makes up about 12% of our overall operational budget. Next year's proposed budget is approximately $50.2 million in total. It's actually a $21 million decrease from this year's budget, but I'll explain an accounting anomaly that's causing that. However, of that proposed $50.1 million budget next year, the overall total contribution by our 12 member school districts is a little over $600,000. And you can see your school district's contribution listed on this chart. It's a formula-based contribution based on enrollment and some market aid ratio components. However, we're proud that this has not changed for 15 or 16 years. And again, there's alternative revenue sources are one of the reasons we're able to do that. Taking a high look at the intermediate unit's core budget, the top 3 lines of this slide are the salaries, benefits, and the mandated contributions to the retirement system for our employees within these divisions. We do have several new positions budgeted essentially for expansion in our information technology area and our central facilities. We have an allowance of close to $700,000 to upgrade our financial software. It's a project that's going to take several years, and we're looking to launch that in the next fiscal year. I mentioned the anomaly, and you'll see a $25 million reduction for the elimination of a revenue anticipation note. Last year, with the unfortunate budget impasse in Harrisburg, we were forced to take out a loan. In November, like many school districts, intermediate units, and other organizations across the Commonwealth, we were not receiving any type of subsidy. So it got pretty dire. In order to meet our payroll, debt service, and accounts payable obligations, we had to arrange for a loan for $25 million. Fortunately, just before we needed to tap that loan, the budget was passed. We again began to receive our funding. However, from an accounting standpoint, we still need to recognize that situation. We're certainly hoping we're not in that position in November of this year. There's many services that a school district can avail themselves to in our core budget. It can be communication services, information technology, human resources, and recruiting consortiums. One of the more common and more successful ones is our collaborative purchasing board, our joint purchasing board. On this chart, you see the more common products, services, and areas of operations that we work collaboratively with all of our school districts to put out large bids each year, and it's been very, very successful. We estimate that the savings as a result of these efforts by everybody is over $7.6 million. On the right-hand side, an estimate for your district is over $500,000 in 24-25, based on the savings in whether it's tax collection, healthcare, or some of the other areas. Another good example of that is in February, after several months of working again with all of our districts, we put together a very, very successful petroleum products bid. We put it out, heating oil, bus fuel, and other fuels. We locked in our prices through June of 2027. That was a savings of close to $1.4 million. But really, it's the cost avoidance at this point that is really impressive. Just knowing what has happened in the petroleum fields and pricing based on world events since that time. We're hoping it normalizes very soon, but however, it was a very, very fortuitous bid for our county. Moving on to the occupational education budget. This is the budget that funds the operation of our 3 Teco College high schools. Over the last 20 years or so, the county and the school districts have put a tremendous amount of investment in career and technical education, not just new and renovated buildings, but equipment, curriculum, programs, and other resources to serve a tremendous amount of children. We have positioned our county as a leader, not just in Pennsylvania, but really nationally in the delivery of these programs. And this particular chart, which shows the enrollment since 2014, is really a success story. We are approaching 2,800 students total in our 3 campuses. Part of our challenges in some of our campuses is actual space, physical space in the buildings for programs and parking spaces to accommodate students. But we're working on different strategies to address that. A high look at the proposed budget for next year. From an expenditure standpoint, it's essentially a flat budget, $34.574 million in total budget. Our 3-year average enrollment continues to increase, and you saw that previous slide. So for a student attending any of our 3 campuses next year on a half-day basis, the cost per student will be $11,412. That's a 2% increase in our tuition for next year. Looking at it historically, we don't want to increase prices. We try not to. But when we do, the Act 1 index is our benchmark, our ceiling for any price increases. And this chart shows the orange line is the Act 1 index for a specific year. The blue line is our occupational education tuition increase. So you can see we've been very, very successful in mitigating any cost factors to keep our tuitions flat or at very minimal increase. Top level look at the expenditures, same format with the top 3 lines being the salaries, benefits, and PESER's contributions for our existing staff. We are budgeting for several new programs to expand, several new positions to expand programs possibly next year. And you see a reduction in debt service of over $2 million. We're actually, our Pennix Bridge campus is paid off essentially. We opened that campus in the early 2000s, and that debt service is now being retired. What does this mean to your school district? This particular slide shows the cost calculation for your budget both this year and next year. You're one of the strongest supporters of our CTE programs. Your enrollment expressed in full-time equivalents has grown tremendously since 2022-23. And you can see the formula is basically based on a 3-year average multiplied by the tuition rate. And you can see the change there. Dr. Fiore highlighted a number of things about the students. Again, this is another example of the success stories for our students in our TCHS campuses, the number of interviews and job fairs and recruiting activities they're involved in. Our kids, your kids, are coming out of our programs, graduating, very employable, and many with full-time jobs and career paths ahead of them. Lastly, I'd like to then move on to the large marketplace services budget. This is the biggest area of operation for the intermediate unit. Projected budgets for 125 different programs next year, approaching $290 million. They are supported by a list of prices, tuitions, and other costs. The average increase across all of those those programs would be less than 2%. In these programs, school districts and other clients only pay for the services that they sign up for, that are subscribed to. Again, just looking at the historical budget and summary, about a 3.3% projected increase next year in expenditures. And this is where most of our student services budgets are. And the theme has really been the last several years, expansion and equity in terms of access to programs. We have been eliminating waiting lists through expanding our facilities and our programs. This year, we opened a new campus in West Grove in the Avon Grove School District, accommodates over close to 400 students in total at capacity. This year, we'll be opening up a new campus in Great Valley. When finished in August, it'd have a capacity of close to 200 students. So across all the campuses that we will have a tremendous footprint to accommodate students both in the county and outside of the county. This is obviously where most of our employees are. So these numbers for the increases in salaries, benefits, and retirement contributions are much larger. You see staffing changes of over 31 positions. That's essentially for our new campus. And those positions will not be filled until the enrollment actually dictates it. But that's how we're budgeting it. So an overall increase projected over $9 million. I mentioned the pricing schedule. Quick look at that. 183 of our prices are not increasing. 164 will be price increases between 0 and 3.5%. We did change some structures, but overall, a 1.82% increase in our prices for next year. Looking at that historically, the same chart, how we've been very successful in staying below the Act 1 index each year. Student services is our largest area of marketplace services. If you look at this chart, you can see many very familiar names: special education, preschool, Head Start, home and community. All in all, we've calculated that we will serve close to 22,500 individuals across all of our programs next year. We mentioned the new campuses and how we are looking for equity of access, both geographically and programmatically. And there's no doubt these programs are resource heavy. They need buildings, staff, highly trained staff, different equipment, contracted services, so they do come with a cost. But even with that, we believe the intermediate unit not only does an outstanding job in terms of serving our clients and the students, but we have a value proposition. We are comparing on this chart our programs compared to approved private schools. And so again, by opening up more seats in the right areas of the county, we were going to help school districts save some money in terms of students coming to our campuses as opposed to the approved private school programs. Another program that's very successful, and I know this district is part of this, is the Brandywine Virtual Academy. It's grown to close to 2,500 students across the Commonwealth. Again, there's a lot of positive, high-quality components to their online education program, wellness check-ins, and other supports for students who are learning virtually. But again, it's a value operation. This is another example of the intermediate unit leveraging our size, our capacity, and our technology to bring some value to our clients. This chart shows the Brandywine Virtual Academy's annual tuition for both a special education student and a regular education student, compared to what the tuition rate is for a cyber charter school. I know in your finance committee meetings you've talked about the cyber charter costs, charter school costs, and how it's formula driven. You really don't have a whole lot of control over those tuition rates. This is a solution that we offer to our clients as a way to offer online education to the students, high quality education, and at the same time perhaps achieve some savings. So again, overall, you can see in our overall budget between the core, categorical, occupational education, and that marketplace services budget is projected to exceed $400 million next year. Dr. Fiore talked about our benchmarks and our ability to control our cost increase. And with that, we are available to answer any questions the board may have.
Hi, Dr. Fiore and Dr. Levinsky. If you remember me, I was on your board shortly, not for a long time. My question is, when it comes down, I saw where it says program are diverse, but how much diversity are in the programs? Are there numbers to support that?
Yeah, so we are fortunate to have, I'd say we are probably one of the most diverse school entities in the whole Southeast. We have 72% of our students are in diverse populations. We also have around the same amount of students that are economically disadvantaged. So we have probably the most diverse population that you would see with the almost 23,000 children that we serve. So around 72% of our population are coming from minority populations, but also from economic statuses that have high need.
The other thing I stood out to me when the photo of the success story. I think we had this problem before when I was there. I like to see some color on the screen. I didn't see, the photo. It says TCH success story. There was no kids of color on there,
On the picture of the,
on the picture, yeah.
yes, thank you.
Just letting
Oh,
you
make
know.
sure we tell our communications
Yeah,
folks.
yeah, because it's important, because I always look to see.
Representation.
Exactly. And I don't know if it's a Coatesville School District issue, or we could work together to make sure that we bring more diversity there, because education like this, with all these different trades, it's so important for kids who cannot afford to go to college. So I'd like us to see us do better, together, to make sure to figure out how do we get those students there. And I know you can't prioritize them to get in, but we need to do something to make sure that those parents know that these programs are available. I remember when I was there, the diesel program had just started. And once again, I think I asked you, why aren't there any kids of color on there, right, So now I'm curious to know, are there any students of color in the diesel program yet?
Absolutely. In fact, we've seen such a large increase and it's also in the total number. You could say in the last 6 years, we've increased by 500, 600 students. So within there, with a 72% population that is considered minority, we have a very large representation. Now, one thing to keep in mind is it's the students who come to us. And what I think is really exciting is, especially with Coatesville, our partnership, it's one of the strongest in the county in terms of enrollment. And that's a credit to your principals and your school counselors that are working with kids. Because really, we have a few touch points. We have in 5th grade, 6th grade when kids come for visits. So that's their middle school visit. Then we also have the 9th grade conversations we have with them. But there's a lot of legwork, and I give great strength and a celebration to your team of administrators and counselors and teachers, because they're advocating for kids to come. That's why you're seeing those numbers increase at Coatesville, because it's what's happening in your intermediate, your middle, and high school. So I say thank you, Dr. Rabarchik, because that's the difference maker for kids. Because when you don't have access to finances at your fingertips, a CTE program is a way to get there. And it's actually probably the fastest and most affordable, speaking as having a freshman in college and paying the bill. This is a very effective way. So it's working here. There's a success story in Coatesville, but I'll take as many as you're willing to send me. That 250 could be 500, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, we need to lift that number, push that number, but thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing you again.
Are there other board members who have questions for our friends from the CCIU? Okay, I really appreciate the thoroughness of the presentation, especially comparing some of the CCIU costs to other costs, both regionally as well as charter costs. I think that provides very good context for the value that we're getting. And I appreciate you trying to hold tuition costs down. Obviously, as we see our enrollment go up, it means it's still a meaningful increase to our budget, but it's for the good reason. So something we need to work through, certainly. But we will let you go off to our friends in Avon Grove.
Avon Grove, yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
We appreciate it.
Okay. Moving on to our next presentation. This is the 2026-2027 School District Budget Update with Dr. Rabarchek and Lori Diefenderfer.
Okay, so good evening, and tonight we are going to provide an overview of the 26-27 budget development, including comparison of our prior year versus our proposed preliminary budget. We'll also walk through some key expenditure changes as well as revenue projections and the current budget gap, along with our next steps. So what you see here, and we've shared this last month as well, this is the major objects and how we budget through the process. We look at the 100s and 200s, which is your salaries and your benefits. The 300s through your 500s are going to be your contracted services, which includes the IU, transportation, and our charter tuition. The remaining categories cover our supplies, the equipment, debt, and other financial obligations. And these categories really kind of help us determine where we are seeing some significant changes by being able to group them by the major object. As we shared last time, this number did go up slightly. The total proposed budget is approximately $256.7 million compared to $242 million from last year. This reflects an overall increase of approximately 14.7 or a 6.09% increase. Just kind of looking at where that's driving, the categories that are driving that instead of running through all of them. We're seeing it in our 300s, which is our professional and technical services. Again, that includes the IU at the $4.25 million. We have the other objects, which is our debt at $4.22 million. Salaries and benefits, which is our 100s and 200s, it's an overall increase of 3.1. And the charter and transportation, which is in the 500s, is about 1.72 million. Just kind of summarizes the key areas that are driving it. Again, the salaries and benefits are kind of increased by our contracted obligations and rising benefit costs. Professional services increased primarily due to special educational needs. The charter tuition and transportation continue to drive increases in the 500 category. And then our debt service and obligations are also contributing to our overall growth in this area. Next is our revenue. Last time we just touched on expenses, so now we're bringing the revenue into the picture. And basically, we receive revenue sources from our local, our state, and federal. Local revenue is primarily from real estate taxes and our earned income. The state is basic ed, special ed, and our subsidies, and then the federal is for title funding. Looking at our budget overview for revenues, our total revenues is $244.1 million, which is up from $235.5 million over last year. It's an increase of approximately 3.66%, but if you recall, our expenses were at over 6.09%, which is showing that our expenses is outpacing our revenues. So that's something we have to look at as we're trying to balance our budget. So just kind of looking at our projections, we have local at a little decrease of $777,000. This is before looking at any indication of how we're going to look at property taxes, any changes in earned income. This is just basic over certain, small area of some local revenue that went down. Federal revenue remains relatively flat, but our biggest area you'll see is from our state, which was about a $9.4 million increase, and that is from our adequacy funding, tax equity funding, and our basic foundation. So this is definitely creating a gap between what we were seeing in our expenses versus what we see in revenue. And now we'll share that budget gap. So our expenditures at $256.7 million, our revenues at $244 million shows a deficit of about $12.6 million that we are working with right now. Last time, we shared all of the school budgets, so we had shared that we were going to do a kind of overview of all the department budgets, so that's what we're going to look at next. And I will turn that over to Dr. Robarczyk.
Okay, so the one thing I do want to just point out, I know Lori said this, but just that this is a first look. This is extremely preliminary in regards to where we stand, because we have to dive deeper into these numbers and these categories in order to understand what the actual end result will be. But right now, this is like a copy paste from last year if we're looking at things and understanding what the needs are for the district as we continue developing the budget. So under board services, this is a overall 28.7% increase over the prior year, and driven primarily by dues, fees, and legal-related costs. And you can see those different areas where there is the increase under the dues and fees and claims and judgments in particular. When we look at business services, there's an 8% increase over the prior year, and largely due to the debt services and charter school tuition. So the debt service, as you know, we are building some beautiful brand new schools that will be soon in, where we'll have students in seats and utilizing those new properties, but also the charter school tuition as it continues to increase based on the formulas that are provided to us by the state. Communications is new. This reflects a first-year communications department and that restructuring and having Mr. Davis as our communications specialist. So basically, this is kind of a first glance at what we may need, but we'll be breaking this down even further as we dive into his budget as we look at this past year to see what was put in place to make sure communications are effective. Our educational services overall decrease of 16.8 due to reduced supply and program and cost. As you know, we've had significant number of programs that we've added over the last couple of years, reading, math, and science, as well as STEM programs. So now that those programs are in place, we're able to decrease the amount of costs that are needed to supply those, because we did 5 or 6 year agreements with those companies. Human resources, there's a slight decrease of 4.8, but relatively it's stable overall in regards to where it was previously. In our operations, we had a 6.1% increase tied to facility needs and equipment purchases. And I know this may seem significant as a 6.1% increase, but if you recall, we've talked many times about our facilities just were not maintained over a number of years properly. So Mr. Brazil and his crew and just as a district as a whole been working very hard to put things back the way they need to be. So we have a longer lifespan of the different facilities around the district. Public safety, there is a slight increase of, well, a 16.5% increase. This is driven by supplies and safety-related needs, as Mr. Melchior has come in and evaluated the needs of the district to maintain the safety and security of our students. Pupil services shows a 52.8% decrease, and this is primarily due to the reduction in contracted services that we've had in place because we paid out in advance for multi-year contracts. So there's some decreases in that 300 section of the budget. Special education. This reflects a 20% increase due to student needs and required services. And as you may be aware from seeing the governor's budget, this is not the area where we generally get the funds, an increase that matches the needs of our students that are coming in for early intervention and just the particular needs of our students in those special education classes. So this is where it's going to reflect in our budget that we need to put additional funding in to make sure we support all students. The superintendent's budget is just basically flat overall budget, not much there. Technology has a 21.3% increase due to infrastructure, devices, and our system needs across the district. And transportation showing a 9.6% increase driven by contracted transportation cost. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Steiffenberger.
Yeah, and as Dr. Robarczyk mentioned, that is just like a first look. That's all the departments sending in their budget, getting their worksheets, seeing 3-year historical data. That's their wish list. Now we go into, okay, now we have to really see where we can make cuts that don't impact student services and kind of really dive into them deeper. Do they make sense? They got their information early. That was at like a snapshot in November. Obviously, we've had a lot of expenditures come through since November, so then me and my team and Dr. Robarczyk will take a look at where we are constantly from this point until we pass the budget. Do these numbers make sense? Did we overspend someplace that we need to put more money in that area? So we will dive into those more deeply over the next, few weeks, few months before we come to you with a final adoption. So just to summarize where our major drivers are on the increases, again, it's in our professional services areas, which is a $4.25 million increase. Our debt and other obligations is a $4.22 million increase. Salaries and benefits of 3.1, and charter and transportation at 1.72. All areas that we will closely monitor, and we'll probably see changes throughout the rest of this process in these key areas. So this lays out our next steps. Again, we're going to finalize any staffing and any staffing needs that align to our budget. We will do a complete detail review of all the school level budgets, complete detail review of all the departmental budgets. We will keep evaluating our charter school enrollment trends and the financial impact that it has on our district. We will do a complete detail review of our local, state, and federal revenues. It will do analysis of our potential tax increases based on the adjusted Act 1 index. We know we can go as high as 4.5%. Ideally, we want to stay below that, but we will do a deep dive into that as well. And then obviously the last step is to balance our budget. If we have to do reductions in expenditures, we'll look at that. We'll look at any other revenue areas that we can maybe do a little increase here and there. And the very last thing is the potential use of our fund balance. We are trying to stay away from that a little bit more this year, only because we want to make sure we maintain our fund balance. That will be like a worst case scenario to touch that again. And then our timeline. So at the end of this month, we will have the board will pass the preliminary budget adoption. And then in May, we will continue to present our numbers just to see what areas we can make changes to, get you some more solidified answers to where we are. And then obviously June 9th, we will do our special school board meeting, passing our budget, which we have to do before June 30th. Any questions?
I do have a question. I know when you were going through the presentation, you talked about 300s, 400s, and 500s being like the outsourced services, things like charters, special education, transportation. There was a $4.25 million increase in the 300s, but then you highlighted in the 500s a $1.72 million increase for charters and transportation. Is the $4.25 million related to charters also, or is that related to special education? Can you give us a little more insight into that?
Yes, so the 300s, if you recall, the special ed department was a $5 million increase. That's where that's going to sit, in the 300s.
Okay.
What's also in there is the VOTEC budget. That's in there as well, which was, I think, a $440,000 increase over last year. And then in the 500s will sit the core budget, which was really no change. And then that is where our charter school sits in the 500s. So that significant increase is the special education section, which, if you recall, that was an overspent area for us. Transportation was overspent, and also the charter school. So we're trying to like really hone in on those numbers just to make sure that we have solid numbers going into the 26-27 school year.
Okay, thank you. Other questions on the budget presentation?
Could I ask one? I don't know if you're opening it to the full board.
Yes, I am.
Thank you. I think you mentioned the slight decrease in local revenues. Is that from tax reassessments or?
Yes, that would be part of the tax reassessments, and we will look at all of that again. I reach out to Chester County in May just to get like our most recent overall assessments, and then we gauge it from there where we can make our adjustments to the local revenue.
And then one other question, for the state funding assumption, are you basing that on like the governor's proposed budget?
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
And I know that special ed needs to be higher
It does,
in
it
that.
does. I think our increase over last year is like $300-some thousand.
It's
And
not
when
a
you're
lot. I
seeing we
have
have
it
a
in front of
$5
me.
million increase in that area, it's the area that we need the most concentration on, other than charter schools.
Okay, absolutely. And I noticed that even though our charter numbers, enrollment numbers are remaining steady or even declining because of the formulas, our
Yes.
charter tuition costs continue to go up. So I just like to say that out loud at every public opportunity so that people understand how much that needs to change.
Yeah, and just looking at our charter school numbers as of April 1st, this is internally what I'm looking at to get the breakdown between regular ed and special ed. There was 18 student increase in special ed. So that kind of offsets any kind of savings that we're seeing on the other side. So
Okay.
we will constantly look at those numbers all the way up until the end as well.
Thank you.
Sure.
And the special education tuition rate, assuming that the CCIU presentations poll of that was up to date, that was showing as a $44,000
For the cyber piece.
for the cyber special ed tuition. But then for brick and mortar, it's like in the 60,
That is correct, yes.
$1,000
68,
range?
yes.
right?
Yep.
So I wanted. Oh,
There you go.
68,
Thank you.
878, all right, thank you, Bob. Which I will make the point that the charter school tuition formula calculates the per-student special education rate, making the assumption that all the money you're spending on special education is divided by 16%, right? Of your
16.
student population. What is our special education student population? 31%?
Yeah, I would say.
Right around 30,
Yeah,
Is that right, Brenda?
32%.
32%. Thank
Yes.
you, Brenda. So the point that I want to make is, it's like if 10 people go out to dinner and 3 of you order steak and 7 of you order burgers, but in order to pay the bill, everybody has to pay as if only, you take that bill and you ask those 3 people to each chip in like only one person bought steak, like it's insane. It's saying that the per person cost is higher than it actually is. So I want to be very clear. I am a supporter of school choice. I am a supporter of charter schools. Both my kids graduated from a charter school. So I want to be very, very clear about that. But I also want to be very, very clear that this formula and the way that it works takes a budgetary number and calculates a per-student tuition based on an imaginary number of students that is half the number of students who are actually in the program. So if it's $68,000, it should probably be half of that.
And it assumes that all those students have the same very high level of
Have the same
need.
amount of need,
Yeah.
yes. And some of them, we saw some of those costs for the different special education, those ranged from, if we sent a special education student to the CCIU, some of their costs were as low as $41,000, and then the highest private tuition was $117,000. So clearly, there's a very wide range of need as well. We do not have control over what that tuition rate is, and that is very frustrating. So it is something that we have to be aware of when we're managing our expenses. But even, as you said, even as our charter enrollment comes down and we get more and more students back in the district, it doesn't necessarily mean that our charter costs are coming down, unfortunately.
Yes, very, very true.
Right.
And we have no determination of, what that number will be, because it can change from month to month, just based on the invoices that we receive, that it fluctuates, and it's outside of our control, unfortunately.
Yep.
does the proportion of students that stay here that are special ed, is it similar to the proportion of students that are in charter?
Honestly, I think when they leave here, it goes up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And also, in our experience, the majority of the special education students, I mean, actually, there's research on this at a statewide level, so I'll point to that instead of our experience. The special education students who go to charter schools tend to be the lower need students. The higher need students tend to stay in the district and get a private placement, either through the IU or external. So, anyway.
Right, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we, as a public school, I know charters are considered publics, but we have a tiered system too. We get funding based upon it, like a tiered system, right?
So the level of
level of
need
need.
drives
Level
how
of
much
need.
support we get from the
So
state.
we are held to a standard, and we get paid from the state or federally on the level of need, but we don't hold the same standard to charters. Again, I agree with Liz
Yep.
on how she says school choice needs to be an option, right? But it should be the same across the board. And unfortunately, we're stuck to a formula that doesn't work for us in any way, so.
All right. I'm done ranting. We're going to move on to the agenda items, if there are no other questions on the budget presentation.
I do have one quick question.
Yes, please.
I'm just curious, I noticed like on the communications budget, elements to that, where's like a budget for student climate and belonging? Or is there one? Where's that housed? I didn't see anything on that.
It falls under educational services right now
Okay.
because it's new. So that was incorporated into our Office of Teaching and Learning, since it's all encompassing.
Okay. So that's, requests for that are submitted under that budget?
Right, there would be requests and additionals to there, right.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
I just want to thank you, Lori, for all the work that you do. Your presentations get prettier each year, and, but that's not what
Thank
I'm
you.
congratulating you over. You work really hard, and
Thank
you
you.
actually keep all the departments to a strict, you are wanting to save the taxpayers' money.
I
and
try.
I really appreciate
I think it's a
all that.
collaborative effort. It is, it really is. It's a stressful time for sure, and, we try to do what we can, and I have to say, like, they're like, if you have to cut from my butt, like, Rich and I had a conversation today, I'm like, I will be coming to you, Rich, to have a conversation, but I don't want to be the one making the cuts, because I don't really know what area that it'll impact, so I want to go to them and let them dictate to me, yes, we can do this, we can hold this off. So I rely on them to give me what they want, and then we kind of work from there as a team to
Well, thank you,
figure it out.
everyone, for being reasonable and your leadership in making this budget happen. We appreciate you.
Yeah. Okay.
Real quick,
Yep.
sorry. So will that stay housed under there? Or it's a new program, so is it going to stay housed under there, or is it going to be separated out as its own department or budget line item?
No, right now, it's going to stay in educational services.
For this year or indefinitely? Or is there a plan for that becoming?
I do not have a plan to separate that out.
Okay,
It would be just under educational services.
sounds good.
It's,
Okay.
it's all encompassing under educational services, so it's a collaborative effort in working through that piece.
Yeah, there's a complete input from all members, Dawn included, like what they're looking to. Again, we don't know. We're relying on their expertise to let us know what they're planning to do. So it's like a collaborative effort of everybody coming together, saying what they're looking for their budget and where they're looking to spend that.
Got it. Okay.
And going back to communications, that's just a baseline. I know Brian had met with 2 other school districts to just kind of see what they have as in theirs as well. That 50 might not stay, it could decrease. We're just starting with a baseline because we didn't have that before in-house. That was outsourced, so we're just kind of, we're not sure what he's going to need, and so that's why his is kind of broken out separately.
Okay.
In that, in the overall budget.
That makes sense. That's helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Not for me.
Okay. Moving on to the agenda items, financial statements. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the financial statements, bills, payables list as presented. Do any members of the committee have any questions or comments on this item? Any members of the full board? All in favor of moving this to the full board agenda, please say yes.
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 Okay, it is so moved. Letter B, approval of the 2026-2027 Chester County Intermediate Core Services Budget, and I'm going to bundle this with letter C, approval of the 2026-2027 Chester County Intermediate Unit Occupational Educational Budget. So we've already seen the presentation of both of these. The core services budget has no change. The occupational education budget is about a $446,000 change, mostly due to increases in enrollment. Are there any questions or comments on these items from members of the committee? From the full board? Okay, all in favor of moving B and C to the full board agenda, please say yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. Well, thank
You're
you.
welcome.
But yes.
You're welcome. It is so moved. Letter D, preliminary budget adoption and notice of special meeting. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the resolution adopting the preliminary budget for the 2026-2027 fiscal year and notice of special meeting for June 9th in accordance with Act 1 of 2006 as presented. I will note again, this is a preliminary budget. It does not propose an intent to raise taxes by the amount specified in the preliminary budget. It is a step in the budgetary process that we were required to take under Act 1. So if I am quoted in the paper saying that we've proposed a tax increase of this amount, that is a lie. Just putting it out there. Any questions or comments on this item? Any questions or comments from the full board? Okay, all in favor of moving this to the full board agenda, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is so moved. Okay, letter E, Dindus Inc. quote agreement for sound system for Mean Girls in the amount of $2,147 as presented. This is for the drama production, which I think is this weekend. No. Okay, no, please.
It is this Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. at the high school. Yep, awesome.
Be there and wear pink even though it's not Wednesday. Okay. Any other questions or comments on this item? Okay, all in favor of moving this to the full board agenda, please say yes.
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 It is so moved. Okay, letter F, Chester County Tax Claim Bureau, removal of property tax lien. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors authorize the removal of property tax liens for one parcel as recommended by the Chester County Tax Claim Bureau as presented. It is $5,814.17. And as explained here, this is something that happens occasionally. This was a mobile home lot. The mobile home has been removed from the lot, subject to the issuance of the tax bill. And so they've asked for, the Chester County Tax Claim Bureau has said that this should be exonerated. So any questions or comments on this item? Okay. All in favor of moving this to the full board agenda, please say yes.
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 Okay, it is so moved. We have a couple of contract renewals. So I am going to bundle G through L, and I will run through those quickly. Frontline Education, Forecast 5 subscriptions renewal with an increase of $1,854.51. I'll note this is a beneficial program for us. It gives us comparative analytics compared to other districts. Letter H, we have the CSIU, Computer Services Contract Renewal. We have an increase of $425 for the financial information system and a decrease of $2808 in the document management system. Letter I, GHR Education Contract Renewal Agreement. This is for a number of different aids and vendor payments are the rates that we would pay if we use aids for those positions. Letter J, Power School Spring Job Board and Employee Records Contract Renewal. a total increase of $1,311.79. Letter K, frontline time and attendance renewal, a total increase of $1,332.90. And the AIG, accidental death and dismemberment renewal, which is a slight decrease over the prior year because of the number of covered employees. So that was a lot. Does anyone have any questions on the renewals, letters G through L from the committee? Any questions or comments from the full board? I will just say that I appreciate that most of these were very modest increases and in some cases decreases. So thank you for, continuing to work with companies that are trying to hold the line on expenses. Okay, all in favor of moving these to the full board agenda, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is so moved. Okay. Letter M, the YMCA marketing agreement. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the marketing agreement for the YMCA. This program will be provided at a 5% discount to district employees as presented. Are there any questions from the committee on this item? Any questions from the full board?
School board included?
I don't think the school board is included, but maybe talk to Lori. Maybe she can negotiate that. I don't know.
That's Carol's work.
All right, Carol. Help a board member out. We were just talking about how this is an uncompensated position, right? All right, any other questions or comments on this item? Okay, all in favor of moving this to the full board agenda, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is so moved. Okay. We have 3 donations that I'm going to bundle, letters N, O, and P. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the donations. The first is the Reverend Dr. Marvin and Ruth Williams, recognizing one senior boy and girl on the track team with a positive attitude, respect for coaches, and dependability in the amount of $100 each. The second is Reedman Toll Subaru, a $3,000 donation, adopting 6 different classrooms, $500 for each of those teachers. Very generous donation from Reedman Toll. Thank you. And letter P, Charles F. Moran American Legion donation in the amount of $300 in support of the AFJROTC program as presented. Any questions or comments on those donations from the committee?
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any questions or comments from the full board? Okay. All in favor of moving those to the full board agenda, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is so moved. Okay. We have a couple of HR-related items. I'm going to bundle a couple of these, but we'll start individually first. Letter Q, the Athletic Department Summer Clerical Staff Position. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the creation of 1 summer clerical staff position to support the Athletic Department from June 8th through August 14th, reoccurring yearly if budget allows as presented. I understand that there has been a lot of work that's been needed to be done in the Athletic Department here to keep up to date with everything. And this was a position that we approved last summer as well. So it would be temporary, only renewed as needed and when we can afford it. Any questions or comments from the board on this one? Okay. All in favor of moving this to the full board agenda, please say yes.
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 Okay, it is so moved. Next item is a memorandum of understanding with CATA. This is kind of a unique issue around a particular staff member moving on the salary scale. So we are being asked to approve this MOU. Are there any questions or comments on this item? Okay. All in favor of moving this to the full board agenda, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay, it is so moved. All right, so we're going to bundle S&T the renewal of Dean of Students for Scott Middle School and the addition of Dean of Students for North Brandywine Middle School. Dr. Rabarczyk, I would just love for you to talk to us a bit about how these positions have been working at Scott and why you are seeking to expand them to North Brandywine.
Absolutely. So we've seen a lot of success with the positions at Scott Middle School with the Dean of Students, Ms. Ortega, and Damien, oh my gosh. Henry, I'm blank there. Mr. Henry, with just being able to build those relationships with students and kind of being the intermediate of a student going from a classroom down to administration. They're able to work with the student, they're able to get them back if they're dysregulated, or just being able to help them to navigate how to be in the classroom, be present, and be successful in their learning. We have a lot of newer teachers at Scott this year, and they have been a great asset in regards to 2 veteran teachers being able to provide support and classroom management and helping them with strategies that they really, administration, I mean, as we know, Scott's a big building. There's a lot of kids, there's a lot of teachers. So they've been kind of that pseudo piece of it and helping them be successful prior to anyone coming in their classroom, observing them, or just in general, how to handle certain situations that those teachers may not be familiar with. And then the other piece that I find just an asset is, again, the mentorship that they provide for students. They have built so many relationships with students that have been very positive and just been able to help those students gain a focus on academics versus some of the negative behaviors that were transpiring there. So I want to extend this into North Brandywine as well. And for those same reasons, that we can see that there's just a need, especially at the middle school level, in building those relationships with students.
I feel like this is a trend that we've been seeing not just across Coatesville, but across the county, in the charter schools, in the other traditional schools in the county, where the behavior problems at the middle school level, the bullying, has continued to be an issue. And I think what I've heard from you is that instituting these positions has helped us better manage that at Scott. Now Scott is starting to get better under control, but it's happening at North Brandywine. And so we
Correct.
want to make sure there's equity between both of those
Absolutely.
schools in terms of the resources.
We want to meet all students' needs, not just one particular building.
And
And this
we-
was a pilot program.
And we do know that one of the reasons that parents will sometimes leave and go to charter schools is because they're encountering behavior problems in the school where their child is. So if we
Correct.
aren't addressing that and trying to put the resources in place, then we might lose the students who aren't causing the problems
Correct.
out of district. So thank you for sharing that. Any questions or comments on the Dean of Students positions?
Can I just add one more thing
Yes.
from this? So we're hoping with the governor's budget that adequacy funding will continue. So this will fall under the domain of Ms. Snyder, because there is a component in the funding formula where it's building the structure of pupil services, and this is part of what that plan is. So they would fall under the preview of being supervised by Ms. Snyder as well. And then that way, we have some consistency of that supervision, and not just whether it be the building principal or who's going to oversee their success as they go through those positions.
So Mrs. Snyder would make sure that there's consistency in how the deans of students at both schools
Correct.
Work and interact with students.
Correct.
Thank you.
And those,
Go ahead.
Mr. Ortega and Mr. Henry were both at Scott this year?
Correct.
And they do this Dean of Students full-time? They're not teaching classes?
No, there is no teaching. They are with students throughout the building the whole
And are
day.
they still considered teachers?
They are teachers on assignments.
Okay. And when we expand to North, is North going to get two, or are we?
They'll get one, because I'm basing on enrollment
Okay.
in that sense, so.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Questions or comments from the full board? Okay. All in favor of moving this to the full board agenda, please say yes.
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 Yes, it is so moved. Okay, I would like to bundle U, V, W, X, Y, Z, and AA. These are the addition of educational positions, the addition of an autistic support teacher for North Brandywine due to enrollment of students moving into 6th grade, the addition of an emotional support special education teacher for Scott, the addition of ESL teacher positions, one for Reeseville for increased enrollment and one for Scott due to increased enrollments, and then addition of English language arts, math, science, and social study positions at the middle school in a proposal to adjust scheduling. I would love to get a little bit of context here on these position changes. I don't know if you want to speak to them or if Leah wants to speak to them.
Well, I can have individuals come up if you would like, but the need for the autistic support and the emotional support, obviously, we have students who are coming up through the
Yes.
ranks. So there are positions needed particularly at, Scott, is that the emotional support? I have to look here again. At the middle school level.
Do we locate all students that need autistic support or emotional support at one of the two middle schools? As I know, at the elementary school level, we've typically pushed them all to a specific school where we can support those resources. Are we doing that similarly?
Yes and no. I mean,
Okay.
there are some programs that are a little bit heavier at one of the schools over another. And again, that's based on availability of space.
Yeah.
So, and, also for what's most ideal for those students to be successful in the educational center they're in. Like Scott, we know is a lot of nooks and crannies, different floors. That's much harder to navigate when you have, a student with autism and maybe even emotional support student. So we do have programs that are at certain schools. But again, these are positions, if I'm correct, Mrs. George, that these are students that are trickling up from the elementary schools, that there's a need at our middle schools. And remember, our early intervention numbers continue to climb each year. So that's what we're going to see is this need for additional support at the special ed level as our students come through their grades.
Great.
The additional English ESL positions. So I'm going to actually have Mrs. Snyder just speak to those because she's been working very closely with the enrollments, and I just want her to be able to speak to those two.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So I used the projected enrollments for next year and took a look. If you'll recall, we had very few numbers at North Brandywine Middle School, so we were able to combine our ESL students at Scott Middle School. But our numbers have grown significantly, so we now will not be able to accommodate all the students at Scott, and so we'll have to split the students back into their home schools, and we'll need another staff member to be able to do that. And then in addition, the enrollment went up significantly at Reeseville Elementary School, and so we need to add a second ESL teacher there as well. And it's just really enrollment increases for families that are moving in and students that are matriculating up to higher grade levels. We had to take a look at that and make some shifts accordingly. So that's really why the increase in those numbers. And then this year, the good news is we were able to fill our 2 ESL aide positions that had been posted for a number of years. So that certainly does help to support some of our smaller schools that then have an extra set of hands as well, but don't need another whole teacher. So that's been very helpful as well.
Great. Any questions for Mrs. Snyder while she's at the podium? Okay. Thank you.
And then speaking of the additional middle school positions, so
Yes.
our team is working diligently in putting together a schedule that's going to be more effective for our middle school students. So when breaking this down and looking at the specific needs of our students and to keeping class sizes in a positive aspect learning environment, not overcrowding our classes with 25 to 30 students in every class, this would allow our middle school students to be in teams across the district. And we're still working on that schedule. That's why these are anticipated.
Yeah.
And if we need these, we'll use them. If we don't need them, then they won't be used.
Great.
But this is really to address the scheduling scenario at the middle school to ensure that we have the appropriate number of staff to accommodate the new scheduling.
Great. Any questions or comments on any of the position additions we just discussed? From the committee? From the full board?
I have one on the, I guess primarily the addition of the middle school positions, but really any of them. The budget proposal that we saw tonight, does that include with, I don't want to say worst case, because in my mind it's best case if we can bring in more teachers, but does the budget proposal include the assumption of these additional positions or not yet?
Not yet, but we
Okay.
also, we put some information, or we put some in budgetary reserves every year. So if it's a position that doesn't get filled, we're not putting it into our budget until it actually needs to go into the budget. So
Got it.
it
Okay.
kind of gets tucked away as we anticipate. That's why we will look at final staffing and make sure it aligns to our budget.
Okay, thank you.
That's in part of our next steps.
Thank you.
In addition, one of the things as part of that scheduling is, and Mr. Levinsky reference to it, we're asking for your approval to changing over to Brandywine Virtual Academy for our cyber program. And we do have 5 positions currently that are for the drop-in center that we would be reassigning into some of these middle school positions. But these are still the additional ones that are still needed.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on the staffing additions proposed? Okay. Again, we're talking about all of the additional positions through AA. All in favor of moving this to the full board agenda, please say yes.
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 Okay, it is so moved. Now we're going to talk about the additional facilities positions. I'm going to bundle double B, double C, double D. The addition of 5 custodial positions in order to support Doe Run Elementary. The addition of 1 district-wide groundskeeper and the addition of 1 district-wide HVAC technician. I did have a question on the addition of the 5 custodial positions for Doe Run. I don't know, Jeff, if you want to help me out here. I believe that right now, East Fallowfield and Callan, the custodians there are outsourced? Is that, okay. So the reason we need to create new positions is not because we're adding headcount in terms of custodians, but because in our new building, we want our people. And so we're going to in-house that. That's what you're proposing?
Correct.
Do you know what the proposed savings is? Like, how much are we paying the contractors right now to take care of those other 2 buildings? And how does that compare to your anticipated cost for 5 in-house custodians?
So my basis was on taking it in-house for Doe Run. The elimination of Callan and East Fallowfield will be a reduction of 6 positions, third party. And I think we're close to almost 400,000 in those savings. So,
So 400,000 after we hire the 5, or 400,000 to fund hiring the 5?
400,000 reduction in our third-party cost.
Okay, which we then will redeploy to hiring these positions?
Correct. And I just like to state that, the Doe Run School is, I use comparison with Rainbow. It is a little larger, and there are 7 custodians at Rainbow. We're going to do it with 5 and maybe a sub here and there. See what it is, feel it out. It's brand new, so I think we can do it with the 5 and some subs.
Okay. Thank you. And then the addition of the groundskeeper and the HVAC technician, would you be able to speak to?
Sure, I
Your
can speak
thoughts
to both. The groundskeeper, my intent is, as Doe Run comes online, to perform all the grass cutting and snow removal at that building in-house.
Which again, we outsource today at the other buildings.
And it's probably close, again, Rainbow, 70,000 a year in savings, which covers that position. And, you know, I'm also looking at possibly taking care of Callan and East Fallowfield till their disposition with that groundskeeper also. So there's an additional savings there.
Great. And the HVAC technician?
HVAC, I only have one guy, and it's impossible to do it. This will not only help our, improve our services to our buildings, but cut down on our third-party contractors coming in to service our units. Because, you know, when he calls out, we don't have anybody.
You got nobody.
And the problem's not going to wait till tomorrow.
So the theme that I'm hearing is saving money on outsourcing, getting our people in place to put their best effort and have pride in our buildings and our facilities.
I think, you know, since the first day I was here, that was my intent. And I think we can get a better job and have our own people from local.
I'm here for it. Any other questions from the committee or from the full board for Jeff while he's at the podium?
Just real quick, so how many of the custodians then in the rest of the district would still be outsourced?
So I can tell you right now, North Brandywine, Reeseville, East Fallowfield, Callan, Rainbow, with the exception of, we have one of our own in-house at Rainbow. So I think out of all the buildings, there was almost 6.
And is the plan then to move away from outsourcing them and to hire our own employees?
At some point, that would be my plan, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I was just going to comment on, you have said this from the beginning, and I appreciate you following through. Obviously, we have to do this in stages, and starting with Joe Run is a great place to start. And even if it's a little bit, you know, more money, we're bringing them in. And there are people that take pride in the building, and there's nothing you can, there's nothing better than that. So even if it's just a little bit of a cost increase, I feel like that's worth it to have our own people who are taking pride in our buildings. So thanks for
I
looking
agree.
at that.
And, you know, it will be a little bit of a cost up front. Last month, you approved the plow installation on one of our trucks. This summer, I'm going to do one more with a spreader. We'll be able to take care of that building, and probably East Fallowfield and Callan. So let's take baby steps. We're getting there.
The point that I would make there, Director Yako, is that when we have our own in-house people, sometimes it may cost us a little bit more in total comp, but the ability to maintain the buildings better saves us money in the long run. And I think that's ultimately, especially with this new building that is costing the taxpayers so much money, part of what we're trying to ensure.
Yeah, I think we have to look towards the future. You know, when I came here, there was some third parties that were running operations prior to me. You know, in the past, we can't talk, but they really weren't doing what they should have been doing for our facilities and for the district.
Yeah.
That was part of the problem.
Yes.
Because we outsourced, there wasn't enough love and care and appreciation for these buildings, so they just got left. So having a director of operations, you know,
Yep.
and facilities want to bring in-house to take that pride in the buildings, and most of them are community members, so even better. And hopefully we'll be staying on top of that as we go. But that was the problem. That's why our buildings have cost so much money to maintain. It wouldn't have been that way if we had our own people here, I
No, it was
think.
just deferred, and any company come in and tell you, I'm going to save you money. Well, I'm going to save you money because I just cut the employees roster in half, and we're not going to do anything. We're
Right.
not going to do that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on letters double B, double C, double D?
I just have a question. Have they been posted to our site, HRs? Oh, I'm sorry. Have they been posted, those positions?
I don't think they would be until
They're not
we-
posted until they're board approved.
Yeah,
To the bo-
we have
okay,
to approve them
okay,
first.
all right.
But feel free to tell your friends.
Oh, Oh, I will.
All right. Okay, all in favor of moving these to the full board agenda, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay, it is so moved. Letters double E, double F, double G, the addition of a boys lacrosse assistant coach, a girls assistant soccer coach, and a boys assistant soccer coach. As noted, these are all due to increased numbers and the need to provide additional coaching support for safety and team management reasons. So it's good to see expansion of the programs. Any questions or comments from committee members?
I do.
Yep.
When we're thinking about these things, do we have a kind of a, having been a coach of a school team before, and it always made me a little nervous when I had to go places alone with a group of students for various reasons. I mean, say someone gets hurt and there isn't, necessary support at the field or this or that, but do we kind of have a policy, so to speak, about, like, with our teams that, like, do we require two adults to be with a team when they travel? And I'm thinking probably more along the lines of, like, middle school teams or maybe JV teams with this, because I imagine, the varsity teams probably have more coaches, but I'm just wondering if we have something like that in place, because it always made me nervous when I traveled with, sometimes 20 to 30 kids and you're alone and you're just hoping nothing goes sideways somewhere. And
No specific policy, but that is something that we are discussing at the time right now, is to ensure that doesn't happen or try to avoid that from happening. I agree with you. I mean, one of my first coaching jobs in public school district was girls soccer, 7th grade girls soccer, and they threw me a bag of balls and said, "They're yours."
Yeah.
I'm like, great. But what do I do if something happens, So, but that is something that we are in discussions about.
And I know things have gotten, I think, more recently, I think even for like middle school and JV teams, it seems like when you go places, it's kind of become very normal for them to have trainers there, and more where years ago it was like you could be out in the middle of a field and someone gets hurt, no one, who's there. It's very different now, but I still think it would be kind of good if we could try to get it so when we're, especially when we're traveling places, that we have kind of two deep kind of adult presence, just to make sure nothing goes crazy. So.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. All in favor of moving these to the full board agenda, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is so moved. Okay, our final item, letter HH, the Human Resources Report, recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the resignations, appointments, new positions, leaves of absence, transfers, changes of status, and corrections as presented. There's a couple of things that I'll call out on this one. One is the hiring of a special education teacher for the intermediate high school, so always good to see us fill special education positions. And then there's a couple of retirements here that are going to hit hard, I think. So we've got Steve Lefevre as a supervisor of special education, planning to retire. We've got, and I'm just going to call her what I call her, which is Mama Harvey, Carla Harvey, who has been a classroom aide and also manages the stage crew. So big shoes to fill there. I traveled with her for years for Color Guard, so she's amazing. So wishing her well in her retirement. And then Mark Cunningham as a groundskeeper is also retiring. So a couple big retirements here on the list. I know we're going to recognize all these people, but just calling them out. Any questions or comments on the HR report? Okay. All in favor of moving this to the full board agenda, please say yes.
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 Okay, it is so moved. Informational items, we have the account code legal fees and the medical claims. There is no old business. Is there any new business? Is there any public comment for the Finance Committee? Bless. Our next meeting is Tuesday, May 12th, 2026. And with that, I adjourn the Finance Committee meeting at 7:28 p.m.
I guess that brings me up.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to call to order the Education Committee meeting. Time is 7:28 p.m. On this committee, I'm the chairperson. My vice chair is Donna Rowland, and then we also have board members Bob Connect and Steve Wilson in attendance. First and foremost, we'll go through the approval of the minutes for the April 14th, 2026, March 10th, 2026 Education Committee meeting. Does anyone on the committee have any changes or proposed questions? Seeing none, say yes if you approve to move that in.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. We do not have any presentations. And so I'll move into, public comment is supposed to go first, right? No? I'm all right, Whew. It's been a while, I know. It has been a little bit of a while. I had a good excuse. All right, so agenda items, we're going to start with, I don't know why. There we go. A is the CASD and CCIU Head Start MOU, that the Board of School Directors approved the Head Start MOU with the CCIU for the purpose of coordinating mutually beneficial activities of the CASD and CCIU, too many Cs, to provide effective services for eligible children and families. I think was this just missing board approval? The dates are from before, so.
Yeah, this is one that we need to do annually. We thought we had a 3-year, but this was something that's part of our federal program requirements, so we had to bring it back, and you'll see this annually now for the Head Start program.
Gotcha. The one that's in here is signed 25. That's why.
Yeah, it's being backdated to when the start of the
Gotcha.
expiration of the old one.
So sort of a ratification
Yep.
and continuation. Okay. Thank you. Does anyone else on the committee have any questions? No? Anyone on the full board? Seeing none, if you agree to move this forward, please say yes.
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 Yes, it shall be moved. B is the data sharing agreement with Westchester University regarding the U.S. Department of Education Gear Up program, Future Stars as presented. And they're collaborating under a grant to improve academic achievement, high school graduation, post-secondary readiness, and post-secondary enrollment outcomes for participating students. In order to implement, administer, evaluate, and report on the program, certain student information records, education records must be shared among those parties. Does anyone have any comments or questions on that? Anyone on the full board?
Can I just clarify on
Absolutely.
this? So this is a grant through Young Men and Women in Charge, was successful in obtaining this grant. I just want to make it clear, there is no student names or identifications. It's truly just data that they can use to help build a portfolio in regards to how students are doing overall as part of that program.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments? Seeing none, if you agree to move that forward, please say yes.
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 The C is the Wilkes University MOU, that the purpose of this partnership between Wilkes and CASD is to jointly prepare and support new school leaders or instructors to improve curriculum instruction and student achievement in our region's schools. I thought you were clicking to say something. Does anyone here have any questions about this on the committee? Seeing none. Anyone on the full board? Questions, comments? No? If you agree to move this forward, please say yes.
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 Okay, then we have D as a renewal of magazines and extension to include it for additional grades. The Scholastic magazine for grades 1 to 5, along with the expanding into kindergarten, then as well as 6th and 8th. I think everybody knows what a Scholastic magazine is, so if anyone here on the, what do I hear? Oh, it's her. Sorry. If anyone has any comments, anyone on the, I'm all right, Liren, you're killing me. I don't know, it was like distracting me. I couldn't think. It's not, I couldn't figure out where that sound was coming from. Thought my like phone was on. Does anyone on the committee have any comments? I'm sorry. Anyone else on the full board? No. If you agree to move this forward, please say yes.
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 Yes. I apologize, Director Yako, for my comment. No, you're allowed to do whatever you want. And then we have the Barnes and Noble quote for summer reading books. This is a quote from Barnes and Noble for students in grades K to 4 and rising sixth graders for various titles. They have one book particular for grades K to 4, but then there's different books people can choose from in the the rising sixth graders. And we couldn't get a quote through Amazon. They couldn't handle the volume of books that they were looking to procure for the summer reading projects. So does anyone have any questions about these particular orders? Seeing none, anyone on the full board? Oh. If you agree to move this forward, please say yes.
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 Yes. Okay. And then, is it Cami? This is a renewal for $9,750, which is a little bit, there was a slight increase in cost per download. So we utilize our 2,500 downloads and sometimes maybe more, and they're gracious. Does anyone here have any questions regarding this resource?
No.
No? If anyone on the full board? If we agree to move this forward, please say yes.
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 Okay. And then G, this is for contract approval for PBIS end-of-year reward at North Brandywine Jet Bounce Party Rentals. And it's my recommendation on the committee to discuss removing that and not moving this forward at this time because there were some legal requirements in the contract that we couldn't agree to, and it was just putting what we felt was too much liability onto the district. So we would like to, obviously I'd like to hear from the rest of the committee. Do you want to also remove this at this time and not move this forward to the full board?
When you say remove it, so we're not going to discuss it anymore, just take it?
We can
over?
discuss it if you have questions.
No, not now, but, so we did talk about this, right, a little bit, right? So we're just going to totally get rid of this?
But this was the legal issue
Yeah,
that we
okay.
discussed in executive session, and
Yeah, that's what I was.
we don't want to take the liability on with the proposed changes that we made were not accepted.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So I recommend not moving this forward. Could you say no if you do not wish to move this forward on the committee?
Yes, I wish not to move this forward either.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes, I did.
You do not wish to move it forward?
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
no.
Ditto.
Okay. So the recommendation is the committee is not moving this forward. Justin, did I do it wrong?
Yes, no.
Oh, you can't say ditto.
You did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you, Justin. I needed that. Okay, so we will not move that to the end of month. And then we have H, which is booking contract for the LINK program. I've heard amazing things about this program. And this is for a contract that costs $8,680. It says it's covered by the CCIU. And it's for 3 days and 2 nights, including 6 meals and 7 programs. Yes. Does anyone have any questions about this?
Where can we get more information about that? What is that?
You are actually going to get a presentation from the students who participated in this at the end of the month.
Okay.
And can I just clarify, I think we had some confusion as whether the CCIU covers it or it's their CSI funds. So I'm going to bring you clarification by the end of the month, which funding that comes from, but it is covered, it's paid for.
Thank you for that clarification. So we can agree now to move it forward, and upon clarification, the full board can make the decision if the committee agrees to move that forward. Does anyone else have any questions before we do that? No? Anyone else on the board? No? If you agree to move that forward, please say yes.
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 Yes. All right, then I can finally bundle I and J, which are both public performance or out-of-state field trips, which we don't really disclose where we send our folks, but these are wonderful things that they can participate in. Does anyone have any comments or concerns on the committee, on the full board? Seeing none, if you agree to move this forward, please say yes for both.
Yes.
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 Yes. All right. We then have agreements for Pathway students, student IDs 100179553, 100, I don't know if there was another 9379, 10006923, and 10009334 for the next coming school year, 25-26, as presented. Does anyone have questions regarding these placements? No? Anyone on the full board? Seeing none, if you agree to move this forward, please say yes.
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 And then the Chester County Intermediate Unit Brandywine Virtual Academy. I did ask during our pre-committee meeting if someone could kind of touch on the, reason that we've decided to go this way again and what communication has already occurred.
As Ms. Snyder's coming up to the microphone, I do really want to just thank Ms. Snyder for all the work she did in regards to looking into our own cyber program and looking at other options and determining what is the best that's going to best meet the needs of our students. So there were a number of things taken into consideration. And so as part of that, where we landed was the Brandywine Virtual Academy coming forward with a proposal and explaining their program and how it differs from what we're currently doing. So I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Snyder and Dr. Ryder.
Yes, good evening again. There was a lot of work done preliminarily because we were tasked, we knew our Accelerate contract, which is the provider that we currently use, was up. And then in addition to that, we used multiple online providers for other services. So the goal, if you'll recall, was to kind of unify that under one provider. So we really did meet with Accelerate, which is our current provider. We met with, what was that one? That was, another company that the name escapes me, and then BVA Subjects was the other one. They didn't have an elementary program. And then we met with BVA. And we explained to BVA what we were attempting to do. And during the course of that time, I was doing some research into our own cyber program. And I just want to say that I think our cyber teachers do an excellent job. They are very caring. And they're very passionate about what they do. But when I presented some data to them as I started digging into the Accelerate program, I was learning some things that were concerning. The performance of our students wasn't good. The numbers were extremely high in the negative range. And then there were some other concerning things in terms of how quickly students were completing the work, like a full credit course in a very short amount of time. And going back and then asking the cyber teachers, because they were consulted through this, through the whole process, they agreed that that was some of the concerns that they had and that this was what was occurring. And then, of course, Act 47 came into the mix, which is all the attendance in the new laws for cyber charters, which really doesn't impact us per se, but we definitely wanted to take a look at what does our attendance look like, how do we track it, how can we monitor it better. And at the end of the day, BVA just rose to the challenge and worked with us for several reiterations of this agreement, because they gave us a number and we said we want it to be comparable to what we currently pay. And they did that and threw in, so right now BVA is going to provide all of our cyber programming. They are providing all the teacher support for it, all of the check-ins for the students. They call them wellness visits. That's for a year. They're going to check in with me, so it's one point of contact. And they're also going to provide all of the outsourced services that we have, like credit recovery. And they're going to do that all for the same cost that we have right now for our own cyber program. And it just was such a great opportunity for us when we heard the presentation and the services that they can provide. And so I think your other question, Robin, was how was this rolled out? So Tony and Dr. Ryder and I went and met with the cyber staff. And while we were meeting with them to explain our decision, we also pushed out information to our parents, saying that this was a preliminary decision pending board approval, obviously, and that we were considering changing providers to cyber. And since that time, I've had, with tonight's reach out, I've had 4 parents reach out. The first 3 were really questioning, will my child still be considered a Coatesville School District student? Will they still be able to participate in all of the Coatesville activities? To which it was a very simple answer, absolutely, this is a provider change. All of those things hold true, still earning a Coatesville diploma, still being able to participate in our extracurriculars. Tonight was a little bit more, my daughter loves this program, she found her fit, why are you closing it? And I will reach out to that parent as well and explain this is not a closure, it's a program change. So I think that really helped to get the message out to the families. And then if this is approved by you, then the BVA program has agreed to host an open house and explain all of the program offerings. Now, some of the things that I didn't really highlight that I really want to, you had also asked Robin about the differences between then and now. I think then BVA was sort of a plug and play package, like Accelerate and all the others that we looked at, but now they've written their own curriculum. So it is all curriculum driven and written by teachers to the state standards, to all of the STEEL standards. They're developing these courses to be taught in a cyber setting with their own curriculum. So that really spoke to me, because I think some of these plug and play, it's just a little bit difficult to monitor who's grading. So the teachers are actually the teachers of record. They do the grading. And it corresponds very well with what our curricular programming is. So when I heard that, because I was skeptical too. I mean, I've been here a long time. I know we've had BVA, but I think the rigor is there, which is what we need, and the curriculum alignment was definitely the academic program sold me. And then I was pleasantly pleased to hear that they were going to provide us additional services and meet the same cost, which is very helpful. And there'll be, a monitoring component, and we'll be able to talk to our students weekly because they've committed all of that support.
I have a question. How do they monitor? I heard you say that some of the students accelerated. I guess they finished their courses.
How does Accelerate monitor?
No, I know, yeah, how are they going to monitor that?
That they don't do that?
Yes.
Because their curriculum is designed a little bit differently in that they monitor it and then they can accelerate and add additional assignments, where the other program, because it's designed plug and play, that it doesn't work that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Was there, it's nice to hear they're holding to the same cost per student, or however that works as far as a contract, but for the first year. So is there any discussion about multi-year or percent increase after the first year? If it's a successful program, we want to continue, are we sure it's not going to inflate dramatically after first year?
We did talk a little bit about that, and we wouldn't, obviously, if there were some things that we can do in-house, like we feel very strongly that some of those wellness visits with our social workers that are in place that we hope we can keep there, we might be able to transfer that cost over, so we wouldn't incur that. They had tech support. We could have used their technology now. We chose not to do that. They are going to provide us tech support now, but we want to then compare and see, what we can do the following year. But they do have simple tech support no matter what, but then they have a little bit, different component. So we did talk about that, some of the costs that we might be able to return to the district once we see how it works out. And then certainly we would go back to the table and negotiate like we did this year, because I believe strongly that this is a good program, a good fit, but you certainly want to leave that. I almost was hesitant for a multiple year right away on first inception, just to see how it all shakes out. But I do believe that they're a good partner, just from what I saw this time, because every time Dr. Robarchek went back to them, or I did, they were so accommodating. So I feel very confident about that.
Thank you.
Couple questions. At the middle school level, is there a required, I was trying to read this and I didn't quite understand it. Is there a required live session, like what would it be, like a live session during the week? Or is that optional?
So live session, I believe what that was referring to, and Dr. Robarchek, refresh my memory if I get this wrong, but the way that they do attendance is the students have to be live on screen, and they do a wellness check that way. So the way it's designed is the students can do asynchronous work. They can check in with teachers as needed, but they're required to do a live check-in because they need to do that wellness.
So
that
there
wellness
isn't like,
check.
if you're taking, whatever, a math course, it isn't like 10 o'clock every day I have to be, or even if it's just once a week, is it like at 10 o'clock on Tuesdays I have to be there for my math class kind of thing?
I don't know, because I
Okay.
didn't ask
Well, it
that
says-
level of specificity.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to read this. It says, for grades 6 to 8, it says weekly live sessions in core content areas alongside asynchronous coursework for a blended learning experience.
So I mean, I might be able to help with this as somebody whose kids had this type of experience, although it wasn't with the Brandywine Virtual Academy. Typically, the way that cyber arrangements work is there is a set time weekly for that core content area class that students can log on and be part of the live class and interact with the teacher. But that class is also recorded so that if the student, because in some cases, the reason that students use cyber education is because they have medical issues or because they're very involved in the performing arts or some sort of sport, they may not be available at 10 a.m. on Tuesday for that live class. And so they can take that content asynchronously. But with the new state law on cyber education, there needs to be these physical check-ins, which means if that student regularly is not there for the live class, the cyber school has the obligation to make sure that they've done a wellness check. So typically, the students will log on and be live for a class when they're available, but they will consume that content asynchronously when they're not.
Thank you. And it also seems like we can, in this contract, we can choose whether or not BVA is providing the check-ins. And if we choose not, I assume we're choosing to do that, but if Like
Yes.
if we didn't choose that, we would have to do it?
We would do it,
Okay,
yes.
but
And
we're
that
choo-
was what I
we're
was
choosing-
talking about. Yeah, we
Okay,
might
we're
take
choosing
that
to do
over,
it.
yeah.
Because that's a requirement now.
Right.
correct, on-
Right.
On the new act.
And
then-
the other thing, just to clarify too, they do have that blended learning piece, but that doesn't mean that the students can't check in with their live teacher if they needed support and help.
And then,
So they have, they have those office hours where they can check in and get the support they need. So if I'm struggling in math and I need to check in, there's availability to do that as well.
and then are they, when our kids are in BVA, are they using our Chromebooks? Or are they issued stuff from BVA,
We opted to allow them to just continue with their Chromebooks.
from the district?
Yes. Mhm.
And then, I'm just sitting here, thinking about all the charter school stuff and this and, if I kind of guessed where things would be 10 years from now, it just seems to me, especially with some of our, issues with certain people not wanting to be in our district because of, perceived behavior type things and this and that, whether blended type options where, maybe you're not in school all day and then maybe doing this, part-time BVA type thing or, kind of a mix would be appealing to people. And I don't know if that's foreseen in this, but it just seems to me that, if I was a parent, I was concerned about sending my kid to wherever. If they, if it was a little more flexible, maybe that would quell some of those things and be a place where we could get some kids back and just be more flexible, especially like, not so much in high school because there's a lot more classes, but like in middle school is always to me very, this is what we're doing. And I understand that to a certain extent, and even in elementary school, but I think it just seems like with like everything in our society, the more choices people have, it becomes more appealable to them and they might choose us over. And then kind of a follow-up to that, as I'm thinking, I saw those prices for what we're paying for some of these online charter schools. And, that seems to be a big opportunity for us because this program, I've done some research on it just because I'm actually interested for my own son. And it just seems like it's a pretty high-quality program, and I'm wondering why you would send your kid to whatever, forgive me, I don't know that much about the online charter schools, but why send them there when they could go here? And then, by the way, you're also helping your district by saving, that was a considerable difference in
Right.
price.
So I can speak to the Choose Coatesville. That is one of the components in the target areas. So inviting, oh my gosh, online cyber charter school families to the open house is something that we will absolutely do so that we can, see,
Because I think our
we
size.
can show them our
our
new product,
Yeah,
yeah.
sure. Our size, size of a traditional school district like ours with the sports and, the other activities, I think is very appealing to people. They may have maybe some issues about the actual school day, but, if we can be flexible and kind of promote these things, there's certainly a lot of room for savings there.
yeah, there is a lot of districts at some of the conferences that I've gone to recently that do have a strong blended learning program like you're talking about, and even at the high school level, so that, and some of them even go so far as to make it a requirement for graduation that the students take a blended learning course sometime during their high school. So it is, you're kind of singing my song, I'm interested in that. And,
Well, yeah.
and I think it's a great exposure because when I think back to my own son at college, he took a lot of online classes at the college level, and it just worked for him better, and I think he probably would have been better prepared if he had that at high school. So I do think it's a good thing.
Yeah, because I think it's moving, it's moved that way, and, certainly there needs to be a certain level of maturity with the kid.
Yeah.
That would be my main thing with my
Yeah.
own children,
Time
is that they're
management,
not just,
right.
watching TV while they're supposed to be doing this stuff like they did during COVID. Just, if it's roughly the same quality and the kids are mature enough to do it and get the same result.
Yeah,
Let's-
and I think people
all for
don't
it.
realize how much of a independent, like, time manager you need to be in a cyber program. So it is not a place to go if you're not completely motivated, and that's why I think we're seeing some of the things that we see.
Yeah.
So getting the right fit for students and having that check-in, I think this program is going to do that for us.
Yeah, and just to my point about the hybrid model, I think that a kid might not be able to handle total,
Right.
doing it, kind of on their own, but if they had I got to go to school, be kind of accountable to be in person or even like on the screen live, it kind of continues to give them that structure,
Right.
and then, so.
And just, we have done this in the past. I'll speak from my time when I was a principal. We had a student that wanted Italian as a language, and we don't offer that. So we were able to create a blended learning class. And so there are definitely opportunities for
Yeah, I
that. And
noticed-
now with BVA, we can do
Sure.
that more efficiently.
Yeah, because I noticed in their languages, they have like I think it's Arabic and
Yeah.
I think Chinese maybe and Italian, and I mean, there's a few that we probably wouldn't be possible for us to offer, but, might.
Certainly.
You can. Just a quick question. I think you answered it, but it sounds like this will still be sort of branded as the Coatesville School District Cyber Academy, and it's just BVA providing the back end.
Yes, so it's the same exact thing as we currently have.
Yep.
It will still be our Coatesville School District Cyber Program. The only difference is that BVA is the provider and not Accelerate.
And how many families are currently enrolled? I know we were told this, and I don't remember how.
This is my off the top of my head right now. It's about 100 and, I want to say 92. Don't quote me. That's pretty close to where we are. I can't really give you the breakdown by grades, but elementary school's far less. Middle school's not many. I mean, if we're sitting at 15, it's mainly the intermediate and the high school.
Okay, thank you.
The question that I wanted to ask is, with BVA, will we still have the opportunity to allow students to enroll in co-curricular courses?
Like
As part-
choruses and things like that,
Chorus,
TCHS.
concert band,
Yes.
TCHS?
Yes, just like we do now with our cyber students, all of those opportunities would be available to our students. So even a dual enrollment, even your THC.
TCHS. It's okay, I got you.
TCHS, they would still be able to be afforded those opportunities like they are now.
Okay, so for a family that is currently has a student enrolled in CCA, for example, which is one of the cyber charter schools that people in our area attend, they do not have access to TCHS. They do not have access to dual enrollment paid for by the district. They do not have access to co-curricular activities like orchestra, like concert band, like chorus. So a big positive for people who come to these Discover Coatesville sessions is that this allows their students to have access to co-curricular activities that being a cyber charter student does not give them access to. And I right now am talking to a parent from another district who is having trouble because their cyber charter student is being denied access to an extracurricular course, that the extracurricular activity that that district decided to make co-curricular after she asked for access to it. So just interesting, but point being that this is a differentiator. It gives them something to be part of the Coatesville community that they can't get at the cyber charter school. So definitely make a big deal about that
Plus.
because it matters.
Yes, and if I didn't say this, I would be remiss. All of our senior activities, senior prom, all of the dances, all of the graduation ceremonies, all the things that our seniors participate in, they would be able to participate in With our cyber program, there is no change.
Hi, I'm Julia. I'm the student board rep that's present here. Davis isn't here. I actually took an Accelerate class last year to make up a credit that I was missing because I'm a dual enrollment student with DCCC. And I want to say it was like mediocre. It wasn't the worst. It wasn't the best. I also was at like PA Leadership Charter School. They have an amazing online program, so that was my comparison. But I do really think online classes are really helpful in that area for kids who can't take a class that's offered physically at the high school, maybe because of TCHS or DCCC. So I think having better online classes might like encourage kids to actually like be like, hey, I want to go to this college, but they require having so-and-so classes. Maybe there's an online class like they can take. Maybe having like better, more accessible, more one-on-one, like better online classes would help in that aspect of motivating kids to take more classes. Not saying they have to, but I just wanted to say it's pretty cool, but I didn't quite like Accelerate, so I think this is a good opportunity for Coatesville. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else on the board have any questions or comments? No? And then, thank you very much, Michelle, I appreciate that. And then, so this would, at the recommendation of the committee, go to tonight's special board meeting for tonight, so we would vote on this later. If you choose to move this forward, please say yes.
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 Yes. Of course. Chrome decided to reset. I'm okay, I'll get it. I've downloaded the PDF because I saw it was about to happen. What? Okay. I'm still in education. And then we have, where was that? M? That was L, right? Okay.
On M. Yep.
So then we have M. I have to do them separately because one moves forward and one does not for this evening. So M is the school-based service agreement between Lincoln Center for Family and Youth. Oops, what is going on? And the Coatesville Area School District for the rest of this year to start. And it provides some additional resources for a few schools that just need some additional people to help with some students who might have some dysregulation concerns, to give our teachers additional support, and really going to provide with additional behavioral and academic support in these buildings for the rest of the year. Does anyone on the committee have any questions regarding this issue? No? Anyone on the full board? No? Yep.
I think it makes sense to just give a little bit more context here, because I do think that the behavioral problems that we're trying to address, like, people in the community know about them, so I would just like us to be a little bit more transparent about why we're doing this now.
Yep. So as it's been noted, and through my messaging that I put out through the school district, we've had somewhat of an uptick in some of the behavioral needs across our buildings. So the idea was to work with the Lincoln Center in establishing what I'm calling 4 mobile classrooms that would have 3 staff members as part of that classroom. It would be a teacher, a social worker, and/or guidance counselor or school counselor, and then an aide. And those 3 individuals would help be able to address some of the more higher needs of those behaviors that are happening in our buildings and help that student to work through them. And the idea is to get them back to class as soon as possible. But if they are not present in the classroom, during that time, that's because they are in a place where they're not able to be present and learn. So the goal is to get them to a place where they're ready to learn and get them back to their classroom with their peers. This also allows for the regular ed teacher, or the special ed teacher, wherever that student's coming out of that room, to continue, have continuity with the learning that's going on in the classroom without being disrupted. But on the other side of this, the student that goes to the mobile classroom for that period of time, the goal is to continue their learning as well. So once they get regulated, work through whatever issue they're going through that's causing the behavior, that their learning continue with the teacher in the classroom of that mobile classroom. That's why it's established with a teacher as well and not just behavior staff.
So I think we, as a board, we've heard from parents of students who have been impacted by dysregulated students in their classroom, and it's affecting their child's learning. We've also heard from the parents of the dysregulated students.
Correct.
Asking for more help for their students.
Yep.
And as a public school, we can't just put a student out because they get dysregulated multiple times a week. We have to provide them access to education. So this is meant to help both sets of students.
Correct.
In these buildings where there are kind of continually some of the same students having issues on a regular basis, and it's affecting not just them, but others around them. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have any comments on the board? Seeing none, if we agree to move this to tonight's special board meeting, please say yes.
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 Yes. All right. Then N is the service agreement between the Lincoln Center for Family and Youth and the Coatesville Area School District for the 2026 through 29 school year. Or is that supposed to be 9? That's many? Okay. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to.
I'll be quick. This is the presentation that you saw from April Thomas, if you'll recall, and Steve Brazel. This is the Lincoln Center program at the Exton location. And if you'll recall, they presented a proposal, just a presentation on a 3-year plan. So I had to go back and get the contract for you to ratify and approve, and that's what this is. So it is a 3-year plan, and it's different from the other one that you approved, which is for our school buildings. This one is the Exton program that you saw the presentation on.
Thank you for the clarification. And does anyone on the committee
Ms.
have
Snyder,
questions?
I'm sorry to interrupt. Ms. Snyder, don't go too far, because the next one, Union Community, I want you.
Are there questions from committee members regarding this issue? No? Anyone on the full board? No? Seeing none, if you agree to move this to the end of month meeting, please say yes.
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 Yes. Okay, well then we'll go to O, which is also one that we're considering for this evening's special board meeting. And this is the MOU between the Coatesville Area School District and Union Community Care at the request of the HRSA to title the location as the Union Community Health Care Center, room 135, located in the Coatesville Area Senior High School. And so we've seen presentations, we've, I'm assuming, have had legal review already.
Significant legal review. No, I'm being silly. Yes, we actually came over and sat with members of the admin team, and we worked through different issues, and Union Community was very accommodating to some of the proposals that we incorporated.
So we are then now ready to get a little more information as requested by Dr. Roberczyk from.
So first and foremost, I want to apologize because there is a second MOU that they sent today. The first one that you see on this agenda is really just for the room number and the address change. The one that they sent today, Justin did review, and it was really more language changes that were required by the federal government that they needed identified and specifically spelled out in the MOU. And when you get to the special board meeting agenda, both of the agreements are posted side by side. So the first one that he sent me that's on this agenda is really for just the address, location, and the name and the room number, which was their initial ask. The second ask was a little bit more specific, and I sent it over to Justin very quickly and said, can we help them out? Because if we don't get this MOU approved and signed today, it could seriously delay the opening of Union Community because they needed that to submit with the federal government plans that they have to send up. So I wanted to try and get that accommodating and figure out how to do that so that you would be able to see both side by side. So that's the clarification.
Thank you. So this meeting, we're simply moving this portion, and then we will vote on both at the special committee meeting, at the special meeting afterwards. Okay. Does anyone have any other questions here? Anyone on the full board? No? Seeing none, if you agree to move this forward tonight, please say yes.
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 Yes. Okay, then we have P, the quote from Inflection Point Learning for Beast Academy subscription renewal, a cost of $4,800, and this is a math curriculum that is utilized by our gifted program, and it's a renewal. Does anyone have any comments regarding this? No? Anyone on the school board? Okay, if you agree to move this to the end of the school, of the month meeting, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Now, Q is on here, but Q wasn't supposed to be on here today. So as chair of the committee, I recommend to the rest of the committee members that we do remove this and not move this forward. Do you agree to remove this from the agenda at this time?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And we don't have to talk about it. This is premature or preliminary or a mistake. And then our final education committee piece is an exchange student, which is so exciting. I want to be one of those. To promote, what's that, cultural awareness and understanding, and to provide diverse experiences to school district students. The school board authorizes the admission of international exchange students into school district schools in accordance with policy and accompanying administrative regulations. Does anyone have any questions regarding inviting an exchange student? No? Anyone on the full board? With that, I would, please say yes if you'd like to move this forward.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so we have, what do we have next?
Director Seagreaves?
Any,
Can I bring our attention back to one item prior to moving on into informational?
in the informational?
Yeah, but before we move to that, I just want to bring our attention back to
Oh,
one
yeah.
item on here. if That's all right.
Yes.
Do that now? Okay. I just want to, I didn't have a chance to look at this prior, and it's not a large budgetary item, but I'm looking back at the summer reading books, and I think I brought this up last year. I hadn't done it prior to now, but just did a quick assessment. And when I look at the list of 10 books, what we're looking at is, of the 10 authors, one author of Black African American, one author Latino Latina, one unspecified, and 7 or 8 white or European authors. So for me, when we're looking at who we're supporting as far as minority-owned businesses, minority-owned authors, as well as representation matters here, right? So like our students are reading books that are coming from a diverse set of authors. So I apologize because I didn't do my research prior to us looking at that. But when I look at this list, and again, I know I brought this up last year, but that's concerning to me that we have such a majority of authorship on these 10 books being of one demographic. And I brought up last year and I was told it was already approved, it was put through for that summer, and I'm seeing the same concern, for me at least, repeated here. Because again, I want to ensure that we're getting books that all of our student body are engaged in to the best capacity we can, which in my opinion would be from a more diverse group of authors. So I'm curious what committee members think on that, or maybe from administration, why we're landing on the same
Can we clarify that
monolithic.
these are resources that come with the resource that we've approved under Wit and Wisdom? Are these choices within that resource?
These are books that are chosen, these are books that are chosen through this is elementary. So this is some of them from the recommendations. If I'm recalling, there are some through open court. But Dr. Ryder, do you want to say something more?
I just wanted to respond to Director Wilson. So that was certainly something that was brought forward, the concerns from the board and the community for BIPOC authors, BIPOC representation. We reviewed dozens of books, contacted multiple school districts, worked with the IU and our local libraries, attempting to find authors and representation. So we do have an internal review process that we are hoping to formalize and bring forward as we move further into our curriculum cycle, specifically in our elementary book this year. Many of the books on the list will look familiar to what the board approved last year. I think there's maybe one change at the middle school level because it is tied to the current curricular tool and resource that we are using, so it sets the stage so that when they enter the classroom at the beginning of 6th grade, they have background information in those first couple of units so that they're more able to fully engage in that curricular tool and resource, which is aligned to state standards. But I certainly hear the concern as it relates to making sure there's representation of our students in the both fictional and non-fictional texts that we provide. So that is certainly something that we are continuing to look for, and there may even be a committee or task force in our future to help us with that review process across our grade levels. So I recognize that they might not quite be there yet, but it's certainly something we're continuing to work for as we streamline our processes within the curricular departments.
Well, thank you, Director Steve Wilson, for looking at that, because I was wondering when I read it, when we first examined that, came to that. But there's a lot of, there's quite a few in our community, in elementary, authors, Black authors. So I'm not sure if I understood you, that you're trying to research or you're trying to find books. We have a lot of authors in our community that have written books for all grade levels, and even that should be included in our libraries. And I could help you with that.
That would be fantastic. We're certainly always open for feedback from the community and the board.
So am I hearing you correctly that at a baseline, some of these are tied to curriculum, but at a baseline, we're saying that we've been unable to find a diverse enough subset of authors that represents more of our student body?
And that also has themes with a subset of students for K to 5, so that's also another challenge. The particular book that was chosen this year is sort of a animal-based book, but it's also related to, I believe it's in Monterey, California, but don't quote me on the location. So it is based on a real true story. So that's also something that's important. It has a picture book at the younger level, and if you look in the picture book, there's a little bit of BIPOC representation. That's more for that 3 to 5 age range, but it's certainly something that we are looking to do and memorialize that. Our ELA curriculum supervisor spent a lot of time, read a lot of books, and attempted to find, in collaboration with other folks across our county, the county library systems, the Chester County Intermediate Unit, and there are resources that exist to vet sort of texts to make sure they are both age, grade, content specific, appropriate, as well as who is the author, who are the characters within those stories, and then how does it align with the bigger picture. So it is a big endeavor. We'd love to have more people reading and vetting the books, and that's something we are looking to do, and that will, I believe, tie in nicely with some of our Succeed by 3 task force recommendations that you may see coming soon, but we're, I think, only one meeting in on that task force, so still a little bit of work as we go throughout the summer and the subsequent school year.
Dr. Ryder, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Did you say that there's actually the same title being provided at different reading levels across different grade levels? Is that part of what's going on here?
So right now, it is just one book that appeals to ideally that sort of elementary audience. So our rising K to 4, which will be next year's 1st through 5th graders. This particular book, we also have to look and make sure it's available in multiple languages. So we want something that's available in both English or Spanish, or we record it. I believe that's something we've done in the past to make sure it is available to all of our students. I know we've done movies in the past, again, trying for accessibility and appeal. This particular book, Otter, spelled O-D-D-E-R this year, but refers to the marine mammal, O-T-T-E-R, actually has a book that is geared in sort of a picture level for our pre-K readers. So if a family wanted to expose the entire family, if they have younger students to it, that would be an opportunity. It's not a defining characteristic, but it is something that we felt that was appealing in this particular author. It is also an author that we have had experience with in the past.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I just want to say, I look forward to seeing us improve in this area. I think, working in education myself, we have a library in our own nonprofit center that has age-appropriate, culturally responsive material, books, magazines for every age of our student. It's available, it's out there, and I understand it's a lot of work, but it's there from my professional experience. And we provide that for our own students in this district in the nonprofit sector. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of extra effort. I understand that because we do it. But for me, this is disheartening, personally, and I would love to see us improve in this area. Because I brought the same thing up last year on this. So I'll stop there, but I think we have some improvement to do here.
Yeah, completely agree and understand, and I'm hoping to solidify even an internal process and then an external posting of what the criteria are as to why books are chosen.
Thanks.
Sure.
Are there any other comments? No? I've lost where we were because we were at one place and we jumped backwards, so I think we're at informational items.
We were down to informational
Okay.
items.
Okay, so then informational items. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming up and having that discussion, and I think we all would love to see a little task force put together for that one. All right, any old business? Any new business? Nope, that brings us to public comment. Are there any? None. Look at that. Our next meeting is Tuesday, May the 12th, 2026, and then it is 8:25, and I will call to adjourn the Education Committee.
Thank you. And before I get started with Operations Committee, I just want to, obviously, Julia, you're welcome to stay, but if you want to be excused, it's a late night and a school night. We won't be insulted. So, thank you to our student representative. Okay, at 8:25 p.m., I call to order the Operations Committee for April 14th, 2026. I note the presence of, in addition to myself, Vice Chair Liz Muirhead and board members Holly Charest and Shauna Maxwell. Moving on to the approval of the minutes for the March 10th Operations Committee meeting. Are there any changes or objections to the minutes? Seeing none, I recommend, I can't remember the wording for this, moving those for approval of the minutes for March 10th, 2026. Approved. Approved?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, sorry, moving on to agenda items. I'm going to start out with a bundle. Agenda items A, B, and C. Weaver Landscaping Services for a facilities warehouse building repair. I'm sorry, I should have said we have no presentations tonight, so moving on. Letter A is Weaver Landscaping warehouse building repair. Letter B is Weaver Landscaping snow removal contract extension. And letter C, Weaver Landscaping lawn maintenance contract extension. And the first one is a proposal for repair to a concrete building. And the other two are extensions of existing contracts. Does anyone have questions on agenda items A, B, or C? Okay, seeing none, please say yes if you approve advancing these to, would this be the end of the month board meeting, I think? This. Please say yes if you approve moving this to the board meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter D, Kropansky Fencing. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the proposal from Kropansky Fencing to install chain link fence around the playground at Reeseville Elementary for $10,000 as presented. Are there any questions from committee members or the full board? Please say yes if you approve moving this forward.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter E, recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the proposal from Edwin L. Heim Company for the 8-inch triple-duty valve replacement for the senior high school for a total cost of $12,812 as presented. And this is, again, just necessary maintenance. Are there any questions on this agenda item?
Can I?
Oh, yeah, please.
What was on? This won't go to consent. We'll have to discuss this at the board meeting. I did request a second bid quote on it, and it came back, and we want to make sure they're apples to apples.
Okay.
So we'll have the two quotes at the final meeting.
At the end of April.
At the end of the month, yeah.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. All right, so do we want to still move this forward? And, okay, we'll have the other quote at the end of the month. All right, so if you approve moving this forward, pending we'll have another proposal comparison by the end of the month. Please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Agenda item F, that the Board of School Directors approve the proposal from Tri-State HVAC for the total cost of $6,940 as presented. Any questions from committee members?
I noticed there was also something here about a rate sheet. I assume that's like for when, like you talked about before, when our HVAC guy is out and you need to call somebody in. So that isn't included in this agreement, in the dollar amount posted for this agreement.
That's just calling out what their prices are for their certain techs.
Yeah.
And I will just note that this quote for the PM, for the Dectron, we just put almost $100,000 in that system that hasn't been looked at in quite a few years. I just want to make sure we protect our investment.
Fair.
Thank you. Any other questions from committee members or the full board? Please say yes if you approve moving this forward to the full board agenda.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter G, Horde Copeland Macht Incorporated, that the Board of School Directors approve the amendment to the professional services agreement between Horde Copeland Macht and the Coatesville Area School District for the addition and renovation project at Kings Highway Elementary School for a total cost of $167,600 as presented. Are there questions from committee members, or can you give any additional information about this, since it is a larger ticket item?
Yeah, the scope of the renovations at Kings Highway has changed dramatically. This is the Schrader Group, which the district have had for a long time. They've just merged with another group.
Okay, so the Schrader Group name is changed.
Yes.
Okay.
It's Horde Copeland Macht DBA Schrader Group.
Yeah, that's
how it's.
probably in place 6 months.
Okay.
Okay. Any further questions from committee members or the board? Please say yes if you approve moving this forward to the board agenda.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter H, Environmental Control Systems, that the Board of School Directors approve the extended contract between Environmental Control Systems and the Coatesville Area School District for professional engineering, environmental management consulting, and asbestos control services in connection with our AHERA management plan through June 30th, 2029, following the fee schedule updated July 1st, 2026, as presented. Are there any questions from committee members?
It seems good that we're locking in rates for such a long period of time. I'm just wondering how these rates compare to what we have been paying.
Well, I could add just that they've been a great partner of ours since I'm here, and I'm not sure how long they were before, but they've helped us navigate a lot of troubled waters, and very professionally. So I would recommend doing it. I haven't looked at other companies. We've dealt with some on other issues, and I wasn't nearly as comfortable as I am with these folks.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jeff. My question was more about how do the rates on this agreement compare to the rates that we have been paying them from a prior agreement? And are there significant increases or are they minor increases?
I think it's just minor.
Okay.
I would say looking at, we have the 2019 previous contract in here as well, and there are increases, but to me, it's reasonable for 7 years. And they're based on hourly rates, based on the position, so professional engineer at one rate, a data entry at another.
Thank you.
All right, any further questions? Please say yes if you approve moving this forward to the full board agenda.
Yes.
Yes. Letter I, that the Board of School Directors approve the contract between William P. McGovern, Inc. and the Coatesville Area School District for the wastewater pump and haul at Doe Run Elementary at the rate of 11 cents per gallon with a 4,000 gallon minimum as presented. And I should say, are there any questions from committee members? My understanding is this is the stopgap until we're tied in to the sewer system.
Correct. The full system won't be up and running, so this is something that we have no choice really in doing.
We need it.
We need it.
And we need school to open on time, so. Are there any further questions from committee members or the board? Please say yes if you approve moving this forward to the full board agenda.
Yes.
Yes. Looking ahead to see if there are any I can. All right, letter J, that the Board of School Directors approve the recommendation from ICS Consulting and Pittsburgh Stage, the contract for the theatrical lighting project at Scott Middle School for a total cost of $431,278 as presented. And this is lighting in the Scott Middle School auditorium. I don't know if there's anything, does anyone have questions? Or is there anything you would want to add?
This is the lighting for the stage and all the apparatus above. There were, I'll just note, there were two addendums or alternates for this that we chose not to take, which would have pushed it over $700,000.
Thank you for saving us those costs. Any further questions from committee members or the board? Please say yes if you approve moving this forward to the full board agenda.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter K, municipal, that the Board of School Directors approve the 24-inch Powermatic planer from the senior high school to be placed on municipal bid for auction as presented. Any questions from committee members or the full board?
I just note it says it's inoperable in the attachment, just in case anybody didn't look at the attachment.
No warranties will be provided.
As is. Please say yes if you approve moving this forward to the full board agenda. Yes.
Yes.
Letter L, that the Board of School Directors approve the proposal from Hiller for pole stations for the Coatesville Area School District for a total cost of $762.60 as presented. And these are for fire alarm pole stations.
Correct. Hillier is our new provider for our fire alarms, and we're purchasing these through them. Our in-house electricians will install them.
Thank you. Are there any questions from committee members or from the full board? Please say yes if you approve moving this forward to the board agenda.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter M, PennDOT, that the Board of School Directors approve the agreement between the Coatesville Area School District and Stephen Philip Bell for the temporary construction easement at the Doe Run Elementary site as presented. And this is to allow us, or the construction access to where they need to go to put things in the ground.
Correct. Our one drainage outfall pipe from the Doe Run site goes across, is that 82, Doe Run Road? And this is an easement with the property owner that we've been working on, and our solicitor has made these agreements, which
Thank
is necessary.
Any questions from committee members or from the board? Please say yes if you approve moving this forward to the full board agenda.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter N, East Fallowfield Township Pump and Haul Station Agreement, that the Board of School Directors approve the agreement between the Coatesville Area School District and East Fallowfield Township for the pump and haul station at Doe Run Elementary as presented. This is giving us permission to have the tank and the pump and haul there, right?
It is the agreement the township required us to have this in order to establish. Once it's no longer needed, it'll be removed.
Thank you. Any other questions from committee members or from the full board? Please say yes if you approve moving this forward to the full board agenda.
Yes.
Yes.
Letter O, that the Board of School Directors approve the agreement between the Coatesville Area School District and Pennsylvania American Water Company for the capacity reservation fee at Doe Run Elementary as presented. And this is to allow us to have sewer service once that's all hooked up. Are there any questions from committee members or from the full board? Please say yes if you approve moving this forward to the full board agenda.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I'm going to bundle PQ, RS, T, and U. These are change orders for Doe Run Elementary construction for the highway occupancy permit, driveway permit scope, the Doe Run sewer extension, Doe Run door hardware, change order for the pump house, sanitary holding tank, revisions from the highway occupancy permit and bus loop. I don't know if does anyone on the committee have questions about any of those items?
I just have a broader question. So it looks like if you look at these in order, the total amount keeps going up and down. So it looks like letter Q maybe has the final total of $40,745,258.28 with all of the change orders included. Is that correct?
That's what it appears to be, yes.
Okay.
There's been so many.
Yes.
To try and get this across the finish line.
Yes, there have. I am curious how that compares to our budgeted plan for, because I know that we typically have some allowance for change orders. It feels like we've had enough change orders that maybe we've gone over the allowance, but I'm curious if you could share any context on where we stand relative to what we've budgeted for this part of the project.
I could defer to the superintendent or Lori. I think we're still within our numbers.
We are still within our numbers, yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay. I'm just, like, when you see this many changes, it raises the question, so.
Well,
that
and
is-
just to add to that, I mean, this has been a moving target with so many, between us, the township, the Pennsylvania American Water, PennDOT, this has
Well,
been
well
tough getting
aware,
here.
well aware that these are not discretionary changes, and we have to address them in order to get the building up and running and operational. Just wanted to make sure that we understood where we stand relative to our bond issue and the funds allocated for this project. So, good news. Thank you.
It's a good question. And thank you for the good news.
Yeah.
If you, or any other questions from committee members or the board? If you approve moving this forward to the full board agenda, please say yes.
Yes.
All right. And then the next agenda item, letter W, FC Delco.
I think, we didn't do V.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Thank you. Letter V, that the Board of School Directors approve the proposal from Evans Mill Environmental for conducting soil testing for the on-lot sewage disposal beds and additional stormwater infiltration testing for Kings Highway Elementary for a total cost of $11,250 as presented. Are there any questions about this item? All right, please say yes if you approve moving this forward to the full board.
Yes.
Yes. All right, and now letter W, FC Delco agreement. This is one that I am going to recommend as chair of the committee that we remove from the agenda. To give some background here, our loyal viewers will remember that at our March committee meeting, we did advance a draft of the letter of intent to the full board meeting pending legal review. However, we ended up removing the letter of intent from the agenda at our March meeting because at that time we had not yet received the response to our requested changes. We have now received an updated letter of intent from FC Delco, receiving the updated letter and exhibits yesterday and Friday. So we still need some further review on that, and several items require discussion. And we feel at this time, it would be more productive for the parties to meet and communicate directly. So for that reason, we're going to remove this from tonight's agenda and expect that we will revisit it at a future meeting once the parties have had a chance to discuss. If committee members agree with, how do I word this, with removing this or with not moving this forward, please say yes if you agree not to move this forward.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I tried to remember how Robin did it since Justin said she did a good job. Okay. And then letter X, North Brandywine preliminary bid recommendations. Recommendation that the Board of School Directors approve the preliminary recommendations from ICS for the construction of the new North Brandywine Middle School at a total cost of $75,176,000 as presented. And there's also public content about the bids and bidders that will be reviewed and qualified over the next week, so that we will be able to present a formal recommendation letter for approval at the April 28th board meeting. Does anyone have questions, or would you like to provide some more information about this process?
So this is fresh off the press. I mean, we opened the bids at 11 o'clock this morning, and there was numerous bids. And while this appears over our projected budget, with the two phases combined, it does come in 6 million under. Now, because it's so fresh, ICS is still going to dig into them, and into the contractors with the low bid, and if anything changes by the board meeting, they'll notify us, and we'll have an addendum to this recommendation. Lori may want to add more on the number, why she's the number.
I mean, I think you hit it spot on. It's clearly stated in there that we are over on the new build itself, but under in the combined projects. And they will be doing some additional vetting to make sure that the contractors that are being recommended preliminarily are going to be the final ones before we make a final approval at the end of the month. So Jeff did a good job of hot off the press today and getting it on the agenda for tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions from committee members or from the full board? Please say yes if you approve moving this forward to the April 28th board meeting.
Yes.
Yes. All right. That concludes agenda items. There are no informational items tonight, no old business. Any new business? Any public comment? Thank you. And then our next Operations Committee meeting will be Tuesday, May 12th. And that concludes our meeting. I call for adjournment at 8:46 p.m.
Okay, thank you, Director Brindle. I call to order the Policy Committee at 8:46 p.m. I am the chairperson, Holly Charest. I note the presence of Vice Chair Donna Rowland, as well as board members Beth Brindle and Liren Yacco. We are going to start with the approval of the minutes. We are looking to approve the minutes from the March 10th, 2026 Policy Committee agenda. Are there any questions about the minutes from that meeting? Okay, seeing none, please say yes if you approve the minutes to be stored on record.
Yes.
And yes. Okay. We have no presentations this evening, so we will move on to our agenda items. First up is letter A, policy 251, homeless students, first reading. This is to review, edit, and clean up the language of the policy 251. This policy is combined with policy 255 on educational stability for children in foster care, and updated with additional information to cover all students experiencing educational instability. As you know, as defined by the school code, a student experiencing educational instability means a student who has experienced one or more changes in school enrollment during a single school year due to homelessness, involvement with the court system, or involvement with foster care. This update is not changing obligations of the district to foster students or students who are unhoused and are under McKinney-Vento. If we go ahead and advance this policy, from what I understand, that policy 255 can be reappealed. Committee members, do you have any questions or comments regarding this policy? No? Okay. Full board members, questions or comments about this policy? Okay, if none, please say yes if you would like to move this forward for a second reading.
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. Okay, letter B, policy 326, complaint process, first reading. So with this policy, the edits and updates are language added stating the complaint process shall be set forth in the accompanying administrative regulation, and that the regulation language has been updated. To my colleagues on the committee, are there any questions or comments regarding this policy? Okay,
Sorry, I had to think that through real quick. My only, I feel like, did we work on the AR for that? Because I know that we've been through this process and it was a little confusing to us, and I don't I just want to make sure that we get an appropriate amount of time legally, but also be able to process when it comes to us. Am I making sense?
So, I think there was a discussion or some concerns that the board shared. Frankly, it was almost 2 years ago at this point.
It was.
And I think this kind of just got lost in the shuffle
Yeah.
until now. And so this version reflects
Okay.
everything that was the board conveyed at the time.
Okay.
okay.
So it is in the AR and,
Yes.
okay. Okay, sorry. It is in the informational,
in the
yes.
informational.
Okay.
And it looks like to me that those items have been
Yes, yes.
noted.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. I just wanted to, we did run into this, so I just wanted to.
And I think one of the most significant concerns was if there was I'll call it like an intra-employee complaint, but it was against the direct supervisor, that person would not have to report to the
Right.
to the direct supervisor.
Okay.
themselves.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments regarding policy 326? Okay. Committee members, please say yes if you would like to move this policy forward for a second reading.
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. Next, policy 717, cellular telephones. That sounds very formal. First reading. So with policy 717, it has been updated with additional requirements for employees issued cell phones by the district, echoing language from the form employees are required to sign, and language regarding content of accompanying administrative regulation generalized. So the regulation will need to be further developed to reflect the current district practice. Okay, so I am not seeing it in the informational items, so it looks like that's something that needs to be tweaked out. Okay. Members of the committee, are there any questions or comments regarding policy 717? Okay, members of the board, any questions or comments about policy 717? Okay. Please say yes if you would like to move this policy forward for a second read.
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. Okay, letter D, policy 830, security of computerized personal information / breach notification, first reading. So for policy 830, this policy has been reviewed to ensure compliance with the Breach of Personal Information Notification Act. It has also had formatting changes throughout, and they have included definition additions of health insurance information and notice. Questions from anybody on the committee? Anybody from the full board have questions about this policy? Okay. Please say yes if you would like to move policy 830 forward for a second read.
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. Okay. I will now bundle letter E, policy 218.1 on weapons, policy, letter F, policy 709, building security, and letter G, policy 907, school visitors. They are all for a second reading. Committee members, questions, comments about these policies? To the full board, questions or comments about these policies? Okay. Please say yes if you'd like to move these three policies forward for approval.
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. Okay, that concludes our agenda items. Under the informational items are the ARs that are associated with the policies that we just reviewed. There is no old business. There is no new business. Is there any public comment? No, there's not. Okay. Very well. So our next meeting then will be Tuesday, May 12th, 2026. And I call for the policy committee meeting to be adjourned at 8:55.
I'm going to do this as quickly as I can. Are you ready, Lori? All right. Let me just get it open. It's okay, there we go. All right. I call to order the Coatesville Area School District Special Board Meeting scheduled for April 14th, 2026. The mission of the Coatesville Area School District, rich in diversity and committed to excellence, is to create innovative educational experiences, which are funded by the taxpayers, supported by the community, delivered by dedicated teachers and administrators to ensure all students will become responsible, contributing global citizens. Madam Secretary, please call for the roll.
Lear Nyako.
Here.
Steve Wilson.
Here.
Beth Brindle.
Here.
Holly Sharaz.
Here.
Bob Connect.
Here.
Shauna Maxwell.
Here.
Liz Muirhead.
Here.
Donna Rowland.
Here.
Robin Seagreaves.
Here. I think that's the first time in a really long time we've all been here. So yay. At this time, I ask everyone to please stand for a moment of silence and a salute to the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To my colleagues, are there any additions, deletions, or modifications to this evening's agenda? Seeing none, we can move to public comment. Do we have public comment? We do not. Great. Executive session, yes.
The board met in executive session on March 24th, April 13th, and just prior to this evening's meeting to discuss the following items. Items related to safety and security, confidential personnel matters, matters related to collective bargaining, confidential student matters, matters of potential litigation, and matters that are protected by the attorney-client privilege for which the solicitor was present to provide legal advice. And that concludes this evening's executive session announcement.
Thank you. Adoption of consent agenda, committee meeting action items considered routine will be enacted under one motion unless removed for separate action upon board request. The purpose of the consolidated motion is to expedite governing board action on all consent items, which are not held for discussion. Items that have been held for discussion by the governing board will be enacted upon at the time the item is discussed. I think we've gone through every one of them during committee, so I'm not personally going to pull any, but to my chair, to my chairs, do you want to pull anything?
I would just ask, is there anyone with a familial relationship to anyone on the HR report that would require we pull it so that you can abstain? Okay, then I'm good.
Good catch. Anybody else? Awesome. Oh,
I mean, I guess officially the second MOU wasn't attached during committee, and now it's attached in the full.
Oh, the community care.
Yeah, for community care.
Under education.
Good call. But we did discuss, right? We already reviewed with legal, legal's already reviewed it, so I'm okay not to pull.
Well, and the item was already properly on the agenda.
Right.
So you technically could switch
I don't have to pull that.
the
Okay.
actual agreement itself out ahead of time.
Yeah,
So
then I'm comfortable leaving that with consent.
okay.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing none. Madam Secretary, can you please? Oh,
I need a motion and a
oh,
second.
sorry. Do I
That's
have a
okay.
motion?
Motion?
I'm not used to this.
Second.
You should have to pull something. All right. Any questions, comments, or discussion? All right, Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Beth Brindle,
Yes.
Liz Muirhead,
Yes.
Bob Connect,
Yes.
Robin Seagreaves,
Yes.
Shauna Maxwell,
Yes.
Holly Sharas,
Yes.
Steve Wilson,
Yes.
Lear Nyako,
Yes.
Donna Rowland.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Do we have public comment? We do not. Okay. I mean, I should have just known. Any informational items this evening? I'm going to wait for your reports for the end of the month. so.
Yes, yes, because the legislative breakfast is going to be held this Friday.
Okay.
So we'll be able to follow up with a report.
Perfect. Awesome. Which I think Dr. Robarczyk will be speaking at. So.
And I'm happy to announce that both of our student representatives will be attending
Nice.
the breakfast.
Love
So I'm very excited about that.
Awesome. Can't wait to hear that report. All right. May I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
This meeting is adjourned.